Chapter 1685. This was not the first time that Han Fei had signed a contract with someone. Besides, this contract was only an equality contract, which was equivalent to Han Fei taking a younger sister with him. Their relationship was just that of a brother and a sister, not a master and servant at all. Xiao Sei naturally had no objection. She had already felt Han Fei's uniqueness. However, after the contract was completed, Han Fei and Little Time's minds were immediately connected. In an instant, information appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Name: a Time Dragon Carp. Introduction: a mysterious god living in the river of time, born with the great way of time. It has a natural talent in the way of time. Time Dragon Carps are extremely rare. Because they are good at fighting with time, they have often been hunted by supreme beings since ancient times. Level A1 Quality: a mysterious great way at time, contains 1000 wisps of chaotic energy. Food: omnivorous. Combat skills: time reversal, time armor, time speed shift, time travel, time displacement, time bind, time conversion, time steal. Remarks: Time Dragon Carps are extremely rare, so it's best not to use their abilities easily. Oh my god, Han Fei was dumbfounded. Fuck. You're only level 1. The chaotic energy contained in Little Time has already reached 1000 wisps. Is this a joke? If the chaotic energy was not a big deal, then what the hell were those combat skills? Of the series of 8 or 9 combat skills, he seemed to only know one. Even though the Great Time gave him time perception, Han Fei had only mastered the preliminary time steal and time displacement, which couldn't be compared with Little Time at all. Gulp. Han Fei couldn't help swallowing. If he learned all these time techniques, his strength would probably soar by several levels in an instant, not to mention anything else, just his ability to escape would be top-notch. Even if he encountered a king, he wouldn't be afraid at all. Because the other party couldn't kill him at all. As if knowing what Han Fei was surprised about, the woman said, "Baby, why do you have so much chaotic energy? Don't be surprised. You will know soon. Don't let me use the chaotic energy easily." With that, the Time Dragon Carp comforted Little Time and said dotingly, "Baby, be good. From now on, follow me and be obedient. Don't easily enter the river of time, and don't easily cast complicated time techniques, remember?" Little Time said in a childish voice, "I'll remember." "Mommy, aren't you coming with us?" The Time Dragon Carp sighed and said, "Darling, I have a lot of things to do. When you become king, you can find me." Little Time clenched her fists tightly. "Then I'll become a king tomorrow." The Time Dragon Carp stroked Little Time's head, smiled gently, and looked at Xiao Sei. "You have accompanied Little Time for a long time, and now you are free. If you want to follow me, then follow me. If you don't want to, you can leave on your own." Xiao Sei hurriedly said. Xiao Sei has watched Little Master grow up. It's been so many years, it's better to follow him. The Time Dragon Carp nodded slightly. However, with a tap of her finger, strange lines that looked like talismans appeared on the surface of Xiao Sei's body, like binding bands. When those restraints were broken one by one, Xiao Sei's realm was rising steadily in Han Fei's eyes. From a hanging fisher to a hidden fisher, then to a law enforcer, an explorer, a junior venerable. Finally, his strength stabilized at the intermediate venerable realm. Han Fei couldn't help but be surprised. I didn't expect Xiao Sei to be so strong. Before, he didn't know that this guy was a hidden big shot. Of course, Han Fei knew that it wasn't the Time Dragon Carp that helped him improve, but it lifted his restraints. Now, the intermediate venerable realm was not a big deal for Han Fei. However, Han Fei suddenly thought of something. Since this Xiao Sei can serve Little Time, he should also be cultivating the Great Path of Time, right? If the Great Path of Time was counted, an intermediate venerable could at least fight against a peak-level advanced venerable, or even escape from a peak-level venerable. In this way, this Xiao Sei was not bad. However, Han Fei didn't take it seriously. With or without this Xiao Sei, it didn't matter. Since Xiao Sei wanted to follow him, then so be it. Anyway, it was equivalent to having one more guard. It just so happened that when he went to the outside world, he couldn't fully show his strength. Otherwise, if a powerhouse comparable to a king-level powerhouse went to the glass sky, would he be suspected by others? It was hard to say. At that time, he could pretend to be a child of a big clan, which would be perfect. Han Fei couldn't help but secretly rejoice. Forget about the Temple of Time, if he could learn Little Time's great path of time, he would make a lot of money. In the end, the Time Dragon Carp said, "Okay, you can go now." Han Fei couldn't help saying, "Senior, well. Until now, I don't know what to call you. I can't always call you Little Time, can I?" The Time Dragon Carp said lightly, "My name is Nian, But you'd better just call me by my name. Or, you can call me Han Nian, It doesn't matter." Oh. Okay then. After the Time Dragon Carp left, Han Fei only felt that the surrounding space was dissipating. When he reappeared in the normal timeline, he was still in the place where he had disappeared before, still close to the Scattered Stars Island. However, as soon as he arrived in the outside world, he heard a crack and saw that Little Time had made a breakthrough. Han Fei was stunned. How did he make a breakthrough? Crack, crack, wow. Han Fei was speechless. Little Time made a breakthrough. It only took him a few seconds to make a breakthrough. In just a moment, he reached the realm of a fishing master. While Han Fei was surprised, he heard Xiao Sei say, "There is too much power in Little Master's body. The place where she was before is the intersection of space and time, so her body is neither real nor virtual, so she can carry more power in this state. Now, once she appears in the outside world, she needs to make a breakthrough." Gotcha. Nian Er's breakthrough didn't stop at all. In just less than half an hour, Nian had already reached the realm of a great fishing master. Not only did she reach the realm of a fishing master, but she also grew about 5 centimeters taller. At this moment, Nian turned her head to look at Han Fei and said eagerly, "Brother, I'm hungry." Han Fei suddenly realized that she was making a breakthrough. A breakthrough required a lot of spiritual energy. Of course, she was hungry. Han Fei casually threw a large amount of spiritual spring water to wrap Nian up. The spiritual spring was being consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The sound of breaking the realm didn't stop at all. Only then did Han Fei understand what the Time Dragon Carp said just now. Why does Little Time contain so much chaotic energy? Damn it, Nian had clearly reached the realm of Venerable in a certain level. But her actual realm was still at level 1, now that she left the intersection of time and space, wouldn't she be making breakthroughs crazily? After another half an hour, Nian Er's strength crazily rose to the realm of a dangling fisher. Another half an hour later, Nian Er's strength had already risen to the realm of a hanging fisher. 2 hours later, Nian Er's strength had reached the realm of a hidden fisher. Han Fei almost collapsed. This thing's breakthrough is even more fierce than the Emperor Sparrow's. How could they still have fun like this? A day later, when Nian Er's strength reached the peak of a law enforcer, she finally stopped. Because at this time, she needed to transcend the heavenly tribulation. Nian should have had a hunch, so she stopped here. However, she seemed to be still comprehending the realm. After all, she had crossed a lot of realms. One day ago, she only had the strength to drink milk, but one day later, she had superhuman strength. It would be strange if she didn't appreciate it. However, after many breakthroughs, it seemed that Nian was not as childish as before. Originally, when Nian was only 1 meter tall, she was still a little girl with a childish voice. Now, she was more than 1.3 meters tall and had turned into a girl. And this was because she didn't transcend the tribulation and didn't continue to make breakthroughs. Xiao Sei said, "In a short period of time, Little Master's strength should be at this level. Next, Little Master has a lot to learn. The knowledge that should be learned has to be learned slowly. Although I have taught a lot, Little Master has never been in contact with others. There are many things that you don't understand. You need to learn them slowly." Han Fei nodded slightly. Okay. Got it. Sure enough, although it took a day, it was only one day. It only took Nian, an hour to slowly adapt to her current strength. And her voice also changed slightly, becoming a little crispy. After Nian, adapted to her body, the first thing she did, was look at Han Fei again. Brother, I'm hungry. Han Fei grinned. Don't worry, brother, I'll find some snacks for you. Han Fei took out a fishing rod and threw it casually. Swish, swish, swish sounds could be heard continuously. Big fish, crabs, lobsters, starfish, sea urchins, prawns, mussels, and snails were caught by Han Fei, and he caught hundreds of them in a row. Han Fei said, Nian, be a good girl. I need to cross a territory. You need to go to another space for a few days. When I cross it, let Nian, come out. Nian, asked, it won't take long, will it? Nian, wants to stay outside. At this time, Xiao Sei said, Little Master, the place that Master Han Fei crosses is very dangerous, and you are not strong enough. So, you really need to wait a few days. Nian, immediately said, okay. Then I'll go. Han Fei naturally sent Nian, and Xiao Sei into the sea quelling painting. Han Fei made a lot of potato chips to kill time for Nian, When everything was packed up, Han Fei quietly appeared on the Scattered Stars Island. He didn't find a way out in the Shuemu heaven. After returning to the Yin-Yang heaven, the first thing Han Fei did was find a way to enter the cage. However, the myriad manifestation instrument didn't turn, which made Han Fei's heart sink. Almost with the mentality of giving it a try, Han Fei tried to find a way to the outside world in the Yin-Yang heaven. To his surprise, Han Fei actually found it. And this way was the bottomless cave in the transverse mountain. Chapter 1686. The bottomless pit of the transverse mountain had been studied by countless people for generations. Some people had even experimented with it. But none of them came back. Therefore, gradually, this bottomless pit became extremely mysterious. As time went by, no one dared to go in anymore. At this moment, Han Fei didn't inform Shueishenqi. After all, he had already said that he would leave, so there was no need to say anything. With Han Fei's current strength, as long as he didn't deliberately reveal himself, no one could find him. After confirming again and again that the navigator was pointing to this bottomless pit, Han Fei took out the 9-palace ruler of fortune and found that it only fell on the ominous hexagram. Han Fei let out a long sigh of relief. Let's go. Han Fei jumped up and let his body fall freely. It continued to descend for 2 hours without stopping. After only a few minutes, Han Fei was already surrounded by darkness. At this time, he could go out if he wanted to. After another 100 seconds, Han Fei sensed a force that was rotating outward. A few wisps of spirit awakening fluid would float by here, and Han Fei naturally didn't have the time to catch them. Han Fei was thinking about a question: did the place where spirit awakening fluid came from mean that a king died here? At first, Han Fei suspected that this bottomless pit was connected to the Sky City, but later it was proved not to be the case. Spirit awakening fluid was transformed by the Taoist aura of a king, and it either came from a living king or a dead king. Why was there no king in the Yin-Yang heaven but no shortage of spirit awakening fluid? It seemed that in the Yin-Yang heaven, there were a lot of dead kings. When the rotating force appeared, if Han Fei wanted to go back, it was actually not too late. Although there was only boundless darkness around, Han Fei had the navigator. However, Han Fei had made up his mind. How could he give up halfway? It was just an ominous hexagram, which was no different from an auspicious hexagram for him. Another 2 hours later, the rotating force became stronger and stronger, but after thinking about it carefully, Han Fei found that the pressure he felt was even stronger than the rotating force of this void. At this time, the oncoming pressure was getting stronger and stronger, and those below the venerable realm couldn't resist this pressure at all. Han Fei had been feeling everything around him. 1 hour seemed to be a time node. After this point in time, the external forces would undergo slight changes. At this moment, Han Fei sensed that the force was no longer a rotating force, but an inward suction force. Furthermore, it wasn't just spiritual qi that was being absorbed in this space, but also energy. There seemed to be some deathly aura, mixed demonic aura, and some remnant power of the great Tao. There were some that even Han Fei couldn't tell. This feeling reminded him of the heaven and earth natural array core in the Forest of Horror. This kind of mixed and chaotic energy was something he had only seen in that place. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "Old Yuan, do you have a sense of déjà vu?" The old tortoise said, "It's a bit similar. It might have something to do with the super formation in the cage." As the suction force grew stronger and stronger, it gradually arrived at the initial stage Exalt Realm, the mid-stage Exalt Realm, and finally the high-stage Exalt Realm. In the end, it was as if he had passed through the void. Under such a terrifying suction force, Han Fei did not resist, but allowed it to pull him. Bang! About half a day later, the surrounding suction force suddenly disappeared without a trace, and Han Fei seemed to have entered a vacuum. However, Han Fei found that something was obviously wrong. The energy in his body was flowing out. In Han Fei's eyes, a weird huge millstone appeared. It seemed that day and night were alternating, and black and white were revolving. What was it if not the yin-yang diagram? However, it was not the natural yin-yang diagram. Han Fei could vaguely tell that there were two aspects of yin and yang, which were rotating like two swimming fish. The mixed energy in the outside world was drawn into this millstone and immediately crushed by it. The impurities were discharged from the middle, but the essence was nowhere to be found. Hiss! Han Fei couldn't help but take a breath. 3 array cores. The yin-yang diagram in the cage has 3 array cores. This was the eye of the outer formation, a formation eye that had escaped the spell formation and was suppressing the entire grand spell formation. This array core suppresses the 2 realms. Oh, no, it absorbs power from the yin-yang heaven, the water-wood heaven, and the outer domain and gathers it here to temper the essence energy. Was this big formation really made by my mother? Han Fei thought, if this thing was really made by my mother, why didn't she tell me in advance? Even old Han didn't tell me anything. The old turtle said, not necessarily. If your mother's strength has reached the longevity realm, it's understandable that she can make such a big and complicated formation. But if she's only in the sea opening realm or the heaven opening realm, how can she make such a big formation? It's very difficult. I don't think I can make it. Han Fei curled his lips and said, whether I can make it or not. Although this array core has been found, I certainly can't destroy it. And, I'm sure I can't destroy it now. This place is like a vacuum, and what I feel is not the suction force. The mixed energy in the outside world is not being sucked in, but seems to have fallen into some kind of space depression and flowed over spontaneously. This is a bit like the gravitational space of a star. Han Fei pondered. An array combined with the law of space. This is definitely not something I can destroy now. The old turtle said, this is the yin-yang heavens array, but it may not have been created by your mother. However, since she took out the heaven and earth array, this array must have a lot to do with her. If you want to go out, you have to find a way. The energy here is swallowing extremely fast. If it weren't for your current strength, your body might have been overdrawn. Han Fei naturally understood. Han Fei flipped his palm and the nautical panorama appeared. With a thought, the nautical panorama pointed directly at the yin-yang millstone. Han Fei's face turned green. This was a millstone that could crush countless kinds of mixed energy. Would he be crushed if he went in? This time, although he had the nautical panorama to guide the way, Han Fei still had a lingering fear. Han Fei's body trembled and he used the Gemini divine technique. Han Fei rushed in with only the body of white mist, but an unexpected scene happened. As soon as the body of white mist got in, it was directly crushed into smoke. The body of black mist wanted to merge with the Gemini divine technique. But this combination not only failed to pull the body of white mist back, but also dragged the body of black mist in. Damn the space law, Han Fei was directly crushed in this space. At this time, Han Fei's consciousness was clear. He wasn't sure whether it was his own idea or his body's spontaneous choice. The supreme yin-yang wheel was activated naturally. Immediately afterward, Han Fei entered another void. After a long time, Han Fei felt a little dizzy. Amidst the haziness, he saw 2 dots of light appear in the void. This situation was like looking for a way in the endless void, but there were 2 exits. One of the paths seemed to have a strong suction force, trying to pull him over. However, Han Fei felt a sense of crisis and subconsciously calculated with his fingers. Han Fei immediately knew that it was not good. He wondered if a day had passed with the 9-Palace Ruler of Destiny. Without thinking, Han Fei took out the 9-Palace Ruler of Destiny and began to test his luck. As a result, the result was a desperate situation, which scared Han Fei so much that he hurriedly adjusted his strength and drilled to another exit. However, Han Fei didn't know how dangerous this exit was. Fortunately, there should be one more chance to use the nautical panorama. On the way, Han Fei thought of something. Point to a safer exit. The nautical panorama didn't let Han Fei down. The second path he chose was indeed safer. However, when Han Fei drilled into the second path, the next moment, Han Fei began to bleed from his eyes, nose, mouth, and the power in his body was unstable. At that moment, the terrifying suction force seemed to suck Han Fei from one time and space to another. Under such a terrifying force, Han Fei felt that there seemed to be some kind of force acting on him. Immediately afterward, Han Fei felt extreme pain all over his body. The power in his body seemed to be bound by a mysterious force. Because of this restriction, Han Fei's realm directly fell from the half-king realm to the beginner venerable realm, and he had just entered it. Fuck, before Han Fei asked what was going on, the old turtle said, I don't know whether you are lucky or unlucky. At the moment you left here, a huge force suddenly poured into your body. This force is so much that you may not be able to bear it now. I had no choice but to suppress this force. I temporarily sealed it here with my soul. As a result, your realm temporarily fell. Han Fei was shocked. Is it the backlash of the 9-Palace Ruler of Providence? He couldn't help asking, what do you mean? So is this power good or bad? The old turtle said leisurely, in the long run, it's a good thing. This power can slowly improve your body. Han Fei's face changed slightly. How long is this long run? The old turtle was silent for a moment and said, not very long, about 10 years. Is it long? Han Fei's face changed, but he managed to hold it back in the end. Fortunately, in Forge the Universe, it will be over in a few months. The old turtle said, in addition, there is another piece of news that may not be very good. Han Fei's face changed slightly. Just say it. What could be worse than the current situation? The old turtle said, do you want to feel your body? Only then did Han Fei notice that his body seemed to be pressed by a huge mountain, as if a force thousands of times stronger was pressing on his body. Moreover, there was a force behind him that was trying to pull him back. Han Fei immediately sprinted to the periphery, but his strength was no longer that of a half-king realm. Therefore, the speed of his sprint was only equivalent to the speed of a hanging fisher or a junior hidden fisher in the sea. Immediately, Han Fei used the closed distance technique, only to find that the spatial power here was also attracted, and the closed distance technique didn't work. Therefore, the speed of the closed distance technique was not much faster than normal swimming. How could Han Fei, who was used to traveling thousands or even tens of thousands of kilometers in the void, stand it? Han Fei's face changed greatly. Where are we? The old turtle said, if there is no accident, we are just outside the cage. Your guess is right. The millstone is indeed absorbing power from the 3 realms. But more than that, it is absorbing power from the outside world. Therefore, the terrifying suction force is caused by it absorbing power from the outside world. Han Fei said, then. How long do I have to swim like this? Old Yuan said, I don't know. The millstone can absorb perception power, so I can't extend my perception out. Oh. But as far as I'm concerned, since the yin-yang heaven and the waterwood heaven are so large, the suction range of this millstone in the outside world must be tens of millions of kilometers, right? Han Fei's face turned green. With his speed, swimming tens of millions of kilometers. How long would he have to swim? He had to swim with all his strength. Otherwise, he couldn't only move forward, but also might be sucked back. Even if he used the power of Tao, he would only have the speed of a quasi-hidden fisher, or at most the speed of an advanced hidden fisher. Han Fei's current situation was like being in a vortex. It seemed that this vortex had a great impact on the space, and even if Han Fei wanted to enter Forge the Universe, he couldn't. However, as long as it was a vortex, the farther away he was from its center, the smaller the suction force should be. Therefore, as long as he persisted, the further he went, the faster his speed should be. But at this moment, Old Yuan said, "Oh, I have a great technique here. You should be able to learn it." Han Fei immediately said grumpily, "Why don't you tell me all at once? Why are you still hiding such a great technique?" The old turtle said leisurely, "Don't panic. You will learn this great technique sooner or later. During this period of time, you can use it to practice. This great technique is called Universal Great Shift." Chapter 1687. Universe Great Shift. Since he couldn't enter Forge the Universe, he couldn't recover his strength. Since the old turtle proposed a great technique, he might as well learn it. The so-called Universe Great Shift was supposed to be a great technique for the pioneer sea state to cross the void. Everyone knew that cultivators could step into the void when they were explorers. However, when it came to the use of void power, most people could only seize the moment the crack opened and rush through it. Or, they could use the spatial crack as a specific attack method. However, the real void technique also involved a certain spatial technique. In this world, there were some abilities that could be learned without studying the great Tao of space. For example, the Universe Great Shift, also known as the Void Great Shift, was the simplest space teleportation technique. It could travel between heaven and earth without mastering the great Tao of space, which was indeed a heaven-defying technique. The old turtle said, "In the age of gods, this technique could also be used by the venerable realm. It's just that it consumes a lot of power, so the pioneer sea state used it more." After learning about the Universe Great Shift, Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "Old Yuan, how far can you teleport this time? Is it farther than my teleportation array?" The old turtle thought for a moment. "If it's your ultra-long distance and complicated teleportation array, it can't." Han Fei asked, "What about ordinary teleportation arrays?" The old turtle said, "Far more than that. Generally speaking, the weakest king can teleport 1,000,000 kilometers at a time. Depending on the strength of the king, the distance of teleportation is also different. It's said that a pioneer sea state powerhouse can teleport 5,000,000 kilometers at a time with this great technique. And it's within one breath. If it's a king, you may not believe it, but he can even teleport to the stars." Han Fei's eyelids twitched slightly. "Wait a minute. Are you going to space?" "Space?" Han Fei explained, "Didn't you say that I could go to the stars? Have you been there?" The old turtle said, "Yes. I have been there. However, the big stars are barren and there is nothing good on them. Besides, once you go deep, you may get lost. Most importantly, forget it." Han Fei asked, "Tell me." The old turtle said, "There are some things that you can understand when you are strong enough. All you need to know is that this heaven and earth great shift is the technique that sea expansion and heaven creation experts are most proficient in. Up until now, I haven't found a void shifting technique that's better than the heaven and earth great shift." Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "What about the immortal level?" The old turtle pondered and said, "Venerable Sovereign has more tricks up his sleeves, so he must have a more powerful technique. I know that Dizun seems to prefer the method of descending, but I've never seen Dizun travel." Han Fei thought to himself, "It seems that the old turtle is not particularly powerful in the Emperor realm. Otherwise, he should know something about the immortal level." But now, it was vague and ambiguous. It didn't seem like he knew. 3 days later, Han Fei tried to perform the so-called universal grand shift. In order to test how far he could teleport, Han Fei also performed the Gemini divine technique. Han Fei felt that this was an advanced flash. However, unlike Flash could only cover a distance of a few hundred meters. But Great Void teleportation, Han Fei was amused. Old Yuan, I only teleported 100 kilometers. The old turtle said leisurely, this is mainly because of the influence of this suction force. Otherwise, you could have teleported at least 1,000 kilometers. Han Fei was speechless. Is 1,000 kilometers very far? I can cross the world's end close in one step. The old turtle sneered. The world's end close belongs to the great path of space. In reality, there are countless ways to crack it. But the heaven and earth great shift is purely related to space and doesn't need to exert any power of the great path of space. Unless someone can confine space or make space collapse, or catch up with you in the void, there is almost no way to break it. This is the difference. Han Fei smiled and said, you have said 2 ways to crack it yourself. There must be a lot of experts who can confine space and cause space collapse, right? The old turtle said, you are not a vegetarian. Furthermore, the heaven and earth great shift technique was meant to be used for traveling. In the future, you will dabble in many great techniques. Why bother with this great technique? Han Fei thought about it. That's true. Now that he could teleport 100 kilometers at a time, it was a good start. If he could teleport 1,000 kilometers at a time, he wouldn't be far away from this sea area. In this way, Han Fei practiced for 7 or 8 days in a row. At the beginning, he could only teleport 100 kilometers at a time, but now he could teleport 800 kilometers at a time. It could be said that he had made rapid progress. However, this heaven and earth great shift consumed a lot of spiritual energy. One time could consume more than half of the spiritual energy in Han Fei's body. Therefore, the number of times he could teleport a day was limited. Such days lasted for about half a month. One day after half a month, Han Fei suddenly said, Old Yuan, my power has weakened. The reason why Han Fei was sure that his power had weakened was that his speed had already reached the level of a law enforcer. Of course, Han Fei's law enforcer realm was almost the same as other explorers. This was indeed good news. In the first half-month, Han Fei swam out and would be exhausted, but now it shouldn't be the case. The old turtle responded, you can release your perception. Han Fei released his perception, and after exploring more than 400 kilometers, he finally couldn't hold it anymore. It seemed that he still had to walk for a few more days before he could completely leave this sea area. Another half an hour later, Han Fei suddenly had an idea. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at the void, grabbing a void blade. With a slash, a green light was cut out. Han Fei turned sideways and watched a flash of green light pass by him. In his eyes, information emerged. Name a Vortex Sea Emperor. Introduction: an exotic fish in the Vortex Sea that likes to swim hard. Because its body is like a blade, it can avoid water blockage when swimming, so it is extremely fast. The Vortex Sea Emperor likes to take advantage of geographical advantages to hunt. Its blade is as fast as light and shadow, has the effect of breaking armor, and is highly toxic. Level 85 Equality Exotic Path Extreme Speed contains chaotic gas greater than 16 points. Edible effect, its tentacles are very nutritious. Eating it can replenish energy and strengthen bloodlines. Collectible Sea Emperor Blade, Royal Scale Armor. Han Fei's pupils constricted slightly. A random fish he encountered was already an intermediate venerable. Did this mean that he had already come to the outside world? However, was the outside world really so terrifying? The first creature he met was already so strong. And this guy actually contains 16 wisps of chaotic gas. Han Fei wondered, can I absorb this chaotic gas? Han Fei was very tempted by this. In the display of the demon purification pot, the word absorbable was displayed. This meant that he could absorb the chaotic gas of this fish. In the blink of an eye, 3 terrifying blades came at him in a row. Han Fei pushed with one hand and directly annihilated the power of these attacks. This Vortex Sea Emperor had never seen such a method before. Seeing that Han Fei's strength was only at the beginner venerable level, it thought a feast was coming. However, it did not expect that the strength of this big meal was so strong that it could actually break its extreme speed. At that moment, the Vortex Sea Emperor still wanted to roll over and continue to strangle Han Fei. However, Han Fei casually pulled out a knife from the seawater and cut it into 2 pieces with one slash. Immediately afterward, the Vortex Sea Emperor felt that its soul was suppressed, invaded, and controlled by someone. And the chaotic gas in its body was being absorbed uncontrollably. At this moment, the Vortex Sea Emperor was stunned. It had never encountered such a terrifying enemy since it started cultivating. Who the hell is this? Unfortunately, Han Fei didn't give it a chance to ask. When Han Fei finished absorbing the chaotic gas, he directly threw away the corpse of the Vortex Sea Emperor, letting it be drawn into the endless abyss by the suction force and become the energy of the yin-yang millstone. Han Fei also discovered for the first time that the demon purification pot's absorption ability had returned. He was overjoyed. This was just like when he needed spiritual energy. Fortunately, the demon purification pot could absorb it crazily. And the old turtle's heart was trembling. This gourd is simply terrifying. Originally, this gourd could cut off other people's Tao and destroy their souls. But now, it could also absorb other people's chaotic gas. What kind of divine gourd is this? Rumble, when the thunder rumbled in the sky, Han Fei suddenly realized something, only to hear him say in surprise, "Old Yuan, after this venerable realm big demon died, there was no crack in the heavenly way. What's going on?" The old turtle said, "It's simple. The space over there is too small. It's not easy for a venerable to be born, let alone a king. So when a venerable dies, a crack in the heavenly way will appear. But where are we now? This is the outside world. In the age of gods, even if a king dies, it's just an ordinary change in the heavenly way. It's not strange. This only means that there are many strong masters outside." Han Fei, half a day later. Han Fei found that he seemed to have swum out of the terrifying abyss of suction. This outer sea was getting clearer and clearer. Han Fei felt a large amount of spiritual energy, and some chaotic forces pouring in. One day later. Han Fei's speed returned to the explorer realm. It wasn't until this moment that Han Fei met the second creature he saw, a big fish with a crescent-shaped head and a mouth full of sharp teeth. This big fish was a demi-venerable named Dark Moon Wolf Fish. Its information was as follows. Name: a Dark Moon Wolf Fish. Introduction: this is a kind of wolf fish with high explosive power. It has the bloodline of an ancient ferocious beast. It likes to swim to the moon and swallow the essence of the moon. It has strong spiritual power and is good at soul-piercing and confusing the environment. At the same time, the Dark Moon Wolf Fish's mental energy was powerful, and its teeth were nearly indestructible. They could even bite through high-grade divine armaments. These teeth can be used to refine divine weapons. The Dark Moon Pearl between its eyebrows can enhance the power of the soul. Level greater than 79, Demi-Venerable, Quality, Exotic Path, Extreme Speed, contains spiritual energy greater than 169,808 points. Effect, it can enhance the power of the soul. Collectible Dark Moon Pearl. Remarks: the Dark Moon Pearl can enhance the power of the soul. Han Fei used the Universal Grand Shift and appeared in front of the Dark Moon Wolf Fish. The latter was startled by Han Fei's sudden appearance. After all, it was also a powerful creature in the demi-venerable realm and knew that Han Fei was not simple. Therefore, when Han Fei suddenly appeared, the Dark Moon Wolf Fish knew that something was wrong and immediately tried to escape. However, how could Han Fei give it a chance to escape? A moment later, above the turbulent sea, Han Fei put a crescent-shaped crystal into his mouth. Chapter 1688. After swallowing this dark moon pearl, Han Fei compared it with his previous soul power and found that it had increased by about 50 points. Wow! Han Fei's eyes widened. A semi-venerable could increase his soul power by 50 points. This was simply unimaginable. With his current realm, if this dark moon pearl could provide him with more than 10 points of soul power, Han Fei would feel very good. But this thing provided 50 points at once. This meant that as long as he killed 200 of them, he could increase his soul power by 10,000 points. Han Fei immediately grinned. Although his realm had temporarily fallen, it was also a pleasant surprise. In this world, there were too many powerful creatures, and it was nothing more than the relationship between the hunter and the prey. At this moment, Han Fei just played the role of the hunter. 2 days later, Han Fei hunted about 50 dark moon wolf fish. This thing was relatively rare. There weren't as many of them as one would imagine. Besides, Han Fei found that not every dark moon wolf fish could increase his soul power by 50 points. The lowest was just over 30 points. In 2 days, Han Fei's soul power increased by about 2,000 points in total. This effect couldn't be said to be slow. After all, if Han Fei were to visualize and forge the universe, he might not even have such a number in a year. Han Fei's soul power had now reached more than 190,000 points. As long as he hunted here for half a month, he estimated that he would be able to reach the 200,000 mark. Han Fei could afford to spend this time. Half an hour later. While Han Fei was hunting, suddenly, the power of his soul collided with his soul. Han Fei frowned. Someone's here. The collision of souls exposed him, but it also locked on to the target. As the saying goes, those who are skilled are bold. Han Fei didn't believe that he could meet a random king after he came out. Besides, the soul power of that person just now didn't seem very strong. And Han Fei needed to find someone to learn about the outside world. Therefore, instead of retreating, Han Fei went straight up to them. After only a few seconds, Han Fei bumped into 3 women. Among the 3 women, one of them was holding a dark moon wolf fish in her hand, while the other 2 were glaring at Han Fei with unfriendly expressions. In terms of appearance, these people were much worse than the people from Shui Mu Tian. They were no different from normal humans and could be considered ordinary. One of the women said, "The elementary exalt realm? Who are you?" Han Fei glanced at the strength of these 3 people. The strongest one was at the intermediate venerable realm, while the other 2 were at the semi-venerable realm. Even though Han Fei was only a beginner venerable now, he could still wipe out these 3 people in minutes. To put it bluntly, although Han Fei's current realm had temporarily fallen, he was still able to refine it. However, even a quasi-monarch realm expert might not necessarily be able to capture Han Fei. However, Han Fei was puzzled. Were the people in the outside world generally so strong? 2 early-stage exalted realm experts and a mid-stage exalted realm expert just like that? At the side, a younger woman said, "Hey. I'm asking you a question. Are you mute?" Han Fei thought of something and sneered. "Little girl, don't be so mean. Be polite to an old man." The 3 of them were taken aback. "Is this person very old? He looks very young." Another girl said, "How old are you? Why do you call yourself an old man?" Han Fei said leisurely, "Me. I'm already more than 4,000 years old." The 2 girls said in surprise, "Then won't you die?" Cough, cough. Han Fei was embarrassed, and the middle-level venerable shouted, "Shut up. What are you doing?" The middle-level venerable leaned forward. "Where are you from? Which route did you take? Where is the ship?" Han Fei was taken aback. "It seems that if I want to come here, I have to have a ship. Besides, what the hell is the route?" Han Fei said leisurely, "I travel between heaven and earth. Why do I need a ship? Wherever there is delicious food, I will be there." However, as soon as Han Fei said that, he saw the 3 girls' faces change. One of the 2 semi-venerable girls shouted, "Liar." The other exclaimed, "Sister Fan, be careful. He must be from another pirate group. And the middle-level venerable directly attacked Han Fei. The power that suddenly burst out was extremely fast and powerful, far exceeding that of an ordinary middle-level venerable. Han Fei was surprised. A pirate group? Are there pirates here? Let's take these people down first. When Han Fei took action, he was surprised to find that the strength of the people outside was higher than that of the Yin-Yang heavens and the Waterwood heavens. Logically speaking, their realms were the same, but the polishing was different. It could only be said that the people here had better aptitude and potential than those in the cage. Han Fei waved his hand, and the Tao of gravity descended. The middle-level venerable moved up and down, fluctuating erratically. She wanted to break through the Tao with force, however, the next moment, the woman was dumbfounded. This person's Tao is so tough. A mere initial stage Exalt Realm expert is able to completely crush me and make me unable to move. Pooh! In the Tao of gravity, the woman suddenly turned into a shadow, shook the void, left Han Fei's range, and appeared next to the two semi-venerable girls. Han Fei smiled faintly and said, "Little girl, I told you to respect the old. Come, tell this old man." Swish! Han Fei was about to speak, when he saw that the woman had crushed something in her hand. In the next second, the three of them were swept up by the void and disappeared. Han Fei moved quickly and came to the void with a world's end near. However, they still ran away. Han Fei, the old turtle couldn't help but secretly smile. After all, it's not your barbarian land. There are more tricks outside. What they used is just a small trick, a treasure that can change space in an instant. A teleportation can only cover a distance of 10,000 kilometers at most. If you look carefully, you should be able to find it. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Look. Han Fei shook his head. From the questions they just asked me, I can tell. There are conditions to appear in this place. First of all, there must be a ship. Secondly, there must be a route. Otherwise, if my identity is unknown, I will only be suspected and not accepted. They probably won't tell me so much about the outside world. Otherwise, they will only be more suspicious of my origin. What Han Fei didn't say was that just now, the little girl said she was from another pirate group. This meant that they were also pirates. And pirates had never been kind characters. Therefore, Han Fei needed to recover some strength. With a thought, Han Fei summoned Gui Sanqing to the outside world. Han Fei said, "Old Yuan, you can cultivate outside for a few months. Let me recover some strength first. If the ordinary people in the outside world are so strong, then my strength as a junior venerable is not enough. I have to at least improve a few levels." The old turtle nodded. Okay. To the old tortoise, a few months was nothing more than a drizzle. He was worried that he didn't have time to temper Gui Sanqing's body. Now, he had some time. The mountain and river phantom appeared, and Han Fei first appeared in the sea-quelling painting. In the painting, where Earth 9 was, Nian was playing hide-and-seek with a few rabbits, giggling. When Han Fei appeared here, Nian immediately shouted, "Brother, you're here. Let's play a game." Han Fei smiled and said, "No, Nian, you may have to stay here for a year. The outside world is a bit dangerous. When I deal with the things outside, I will immediately let Nian go out." Nian hummed, but there was no trace of disappointment in her eyes. Because the two cats were arching out of the tree hole, staring at Nian with their round eyes. Although she was talking to Han Fei, Nian's heart had already flown away. Han Fei was speechless. So, his worries were superfluous. He thought that Nian would be longing to go out here. However, she was having a great time. Maybe because she hadn't contacted the outside world for tens of thousands of years, she was very happy to suddenly have such a large and fresh world to live in. Next to him, Xiao Sei said, "Do you need me to go out and help?" Han Fei shook his head. "No, not for the time being. During this period of time, you can play with Nian. This world is not small. It's also good to walk around and enjoy the scenery of the land. After talking to Xiao Sei, Han Fei went to Forge the Universe. In Forge the Universe, it would take 10 years for Han Fei's strength to recover. This made Han Fei a little speechless. What he hated most was hard cultivation in seclusion. It would be great if he could spend 10 years in seclusion like he did before. The old turtle said, "By the way, you can improve your spiritual energy disassembly rate by the way." After all, the improvement of the spiritual energy disassembly rate of the Venerable Realm can change your tolerance to the Great Way, which may allow you to recover a year or two in advance. Hearing this, Han Fei immediately said, "Then why didn't you say so earlier?" After being reminded by the old turtle, Han Fei directly activated the disassembly rate of spiritual energy with the power of hope. 3 months later, Han Fei's spiritual energy disassembly rate had reached 92%, only a little bit away from 93%. However, the power of hope had been used up. So, Han Fei could only spend his time to disassemble it himself. There was no day or night in seclusion. 5 years later, Han Fei had recovered to the peak of the advanced Venerable Realm and was about to break through. Suddenly, Old Yuan shouted, Han Fei, Han Fei. I'm being targeted." Chapter 1689. When Old Yuan asked him for help, Han Fei was a little stunned. "Wait, you're a dignified Emperor Realm expert. Why are you being targeted by others?" Han Fei woke up from his seclusion and frowned. "What happened?" Old Turtle said, "I was found when I was making a breakthrough. Those people have found me and will be here in 10 minutes at most." Swish! Han Fei immediately appeared outside Forge the Universe. When he looked at Gue Sanqing, he was surprised. "You've become an advanced venerable so quickly." Old Turtle said, "Although this sea area is dangerous, there are indeed a lot of good things on the periphery. In addition to the dark moon wolf fish, there are also some extremely rare Dao-seeking fish. I met those humans when I was catching the Dao-seeking fish. I didn't expect that they could find me." Han Fei couldn't help but roll his eyes. It sounded like Old Yuan had robbed them. Otherwise, why would they track him? Besides, they appeared when he was making a breakthrough. Han Fei was helpless. Although his strength hadn't returned to its peak, it was almost there. A peak-level advanced venerable, with his strength and many tricks. As long as the other party wasn't half a king, it shouldn't be a problem. After a moment, Han Fei saw a black shadow appear. However, the black shadow was a bit too big. It was clearly a big ship nearly 100 meters long. And it was a fast kind of sailing ship. On the big sail of the ship, there was a giant shark with a mouth full of sharp teeth and red eyes. The bow of the ship was also piled up like a shark's head. The big ship broke the void with the wind and sailed in the surging sea as if it were walking on flat ground. Suddenly, the ship disappeared. Immediately afterward, Han Fei felt the void shake. The next moment, a big ship appeared 100 kilometers away from Han Fei. When he looked closer, he saw that there was an array around the hull of the ship. The shape of the array was like a sharp knife. This thing could break the void and escape in the void. It was really interesting. Old Turtle was making a breakthrough and a huge amount of spiritual energy was absorbed into his body. However, Old Turtle left a wisp of his soul in Han Fei's heart, so they could still talk at this moment. He heard the Old Turtle say, "Woo! There should be no strong masters on this ship. The strongest one was only a high-rank venerable, and the remaining one was a peak mid-rank venerable. 1 mid-grade Exalt Realm expert, 2 early-stage Exalt Realm experts, and 6 half-Exalt Realm experts. So many supremacies." Swoosh, 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 he only saw the void tremble. 3 people in a row. He appeared dozens of kilometers away from Han Fei. However, these people were wearing heavy armor. There were many barbs on the armor. Han Fei keenly noticed that there was poison on those saw teeth. A lethal poison that can be smeared on an Exalt Realm expert. He was afraid that it was not an ordinary poison. In their hands, All of them were wielding sawtooth machetes. The base of the scimitar was guided by spiritual energy chains, like a standard weapon. In Han Fei's eyes, it was not an ordinary standard weapon. The level of the weapon was probably as strong as a high-grade divine weapon. But a man at the high rank of the Exalt realm? With a sinister expression, he said, "So? This tortoise demon has an accomplice. Kid. Even the marauder's possessions? How dare you snatch it?" It seemed. He must be tired of living. Han Fei smiled faintly. Oh. The resources belong to whoever snatches them. Do you think all the good things in the world belong to the marauders? The advanced venerable narrowed his eyes slightly. You're quite bold. Do you think you can protect the tortoise demon as an advanced venerable? And? When did the human beings get along with the sea demon beasts? Are you mermaids? Han Fei frowned. Do these people know about the mermaids? Han Fei frowned. Do these people know about the mermaids? It seems. I've left the Yin-Yang Heavenly Prison and the Waterwood Heavenly Prison. Even the mermaids have appeared. I'm indeed in the outside world. Han Fei immediately grinned. It seems that you know a lot, don't you? The faces of the three people on the opposite side changed slightly, and the middle-aged man raised his hand. Retreat. However, Han Fei had already come out. How could he let them retreat safely? Han Fei took a step forward and used the world's end close, appearing directly next to the middle-aged man. Poison Fang, the middle-aged man's original intention was to give the other two a chance to escape. He used his soul as his teeth and bit at Han Fei. Furthermore, it was clear that the spirit contained poison. Of course, Han Fei wouldn't swallow this kind of weird poison at will. Huh. At that moment, the 100-beast soul-devouring roar broke out, directly shattering the soul of Poison Fang. Han Fei stabbed out with a backhand soul-stunning spike. Puff! The middle-aged man was bleeding wildly. Carrying Han Fei's soul-stunning spike, he still wanted to retreat. However, Han Fei had already appeared in front of him and pressed his palm on his chest. Bam! In an instant, the man's battle suit shattered and all his ribs were broken. The middle-aged man was horrified. So strong. In the same realm, he didn't even have a chance to fight back. This kind of person was definitely not an ordinary person. The middle-aged man secretly wanted to crush a pearl, but Han Fei had been fooled once before. How could this kind of thing similar to a flash stone work in front of him? Han Fei pulled out the knife and the man's palm fell. Han Fei easily grabbed the pearl and took a closer look at it, and information appeared in his eyes. Name: Escape Pearl. Introduction: a one-time consumable with the ability to escape through space. As long as you crush this pearl, you can appear randomly somewhere within 10,000 kilometers. The escape pearl can break through the blocked void, which is its only advantage. Remarks: a basic escape treasure of ordinary quality. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. I was wondering what this thing was. However, this kind of thing may be useful in a battle of equal strength. However, when the opponent's strength is overwhelming, it is almost impossible for the opponent to escape with this thing. The next moment, Han Fei stuck close to the middle-aged man and punched out, directly shattering half of his body. As for the void lines, they had already attached themselves to it. Han Fei seemed to have just killed an insignificant opponent. After knocking over the middle-aged man, Han Fei said lightly, "Well, this person's strength is not bad, and his defense power is also very strong. His reaction speed and soul attack skills are not bad. However, he's not a heavenly talent at all. Not at all. Come to think of it, for him to be this strong, it's probably because he's not young anymore." The old turtle said. The other two ran away. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up. It's just an array. Let's see how powerful this ship array is. Carrying the middle-aged man in one hand, Han Fei had already come to the marauder's big ship. Just when Han Fei was about to use the revolving star passage technique, he found that this technique failed. Is the level of this array very high? Suddenly, a sense of crisis arose in Han Fei's heart, only to see a light surging on the bow of the ship. Immediately afterward, the shark's mouth, which he thought was just a decoration, spurted out a spiritual energy shock wave comparable to that of a half-king realm. It even contained a lot of power of the Great Way. Sacrificing punch. Rumble, the terrifying explosion directly swept a range of nearly 1,000 kilometers. Han Fei was blasted back nearly 100 kilometers by this blow. However, in the end, he still stood in front of the old turtle. Even the middle-aged man in his hand was finished. He was intact. However, on the pirate ship, many people exclaimed. Someone shouted, "How is it possible? This person, with the strength of an advanced venerable, actually blocked the energy cannon of a half-king realm? Is he still a human?" On both sides of Han Fei, the seawater was like a waterfall, but behind him, the wind was calm. Han Fei shrugged and warmed up his muscles and bones with a solemn face. Fuck, it's just a 100-meter-long ship. Why is it so powerful? Can this ship withstand the attack of a half-king realm cultivator? No. It's the problem of the array. There's an array that can exert the power of a half-king realm cultivator. Interesting, I have to study this. With that, Han Fei disappeared again. Although the shark's mouth seemed to be charging, Han Fei had already punched at it. The invincible punch bombarded the ship, and an energy shield protected the entire hull. Because this energy shield contained a trace of the power of the Great Way. Therefore, Han Fei's invincible punch couldn't shake it at all. However, how could this be a problem for Han Fei? How could he always expect to defeat his opponent with one punch? Bam, bam, bam. With the power of the Great Way, Han Fei's strength suddenly rose. Dozens of punches in a row made the ship rumble, and the entire hull was shaking. Cracks had already appeared in some places. Han Fei thought to himself, if I can be regarded as a pirate group with this ship, then it'll be easy. I can form a one-man pirate group, so that I can have a legitimate origin. After all, pirates were also pirates in the outer sea, and no one would doubt my identity. At this time, someone exclaimed, "Your Excellency, don't go too far. Do you really want to become enemies with the marauders? If something happens to us here, the 4 kings will never let it go." 4 kings? Han Fei thought to himself, I don't care if you're the 4 kings or the 5 kings. I'm never threatened. I'll kill whoever dares to challenge me. Thud, thud, thud kacha. Although Han Fei still expected that this was probably just one of the ships of the so-called marauders, the grudge had already been established. He just had to kill them all. When the hull was blasted apart, Han Fei appeared directly on the hull with a star teleportation technique. That scene could be imagined. Han Fei was now as strong as a half-king realm cultivator. They were merely a few supremacies, but they were all taken down immediately. The remaining half-venerables all looked at each other in shock. Is this guy so reckless? Has the marauders become so strong that they can't even scare a single person away? Han Fei reached out and grabbed the middle-aged man again. The old turtle was still making a breakthrough on the sea, so Han Fei was not in a hurry. Han Fei sneered. Everyone, stay still. If anyone dares to make a move, try to find a way to self-destruct. Otherwise. Hee hee. Chapter 1690. As the #1 fighter on the Avenger, Han Fei had the potential to be a pirate. As for robbing, Han Fei certainly wouldn't lose to these people. Therefore, after Han Fei robbed their ship, they didn't dare to move at all, and the only advanced venerable on the ship was easily taken down by Han Fei. Half an hour later, the old turtle broke through to the advanced venerable realm, and then he came to the ship unhurriedly. At this moment, the old turtle really wanted to swallow these people in one bite. How dare you hunt me? Why don't you take a look at yourselves? Han Fei said, keep an eye on him for me. I want to see this man's memory. Although Han Fei rarely used the soul-searching technique, it should play a role at a critical moment. For example, at this moment, Han Fei knew nothing about the outer domain. The only thing he knew was the name of the 36 black heavens. This was his first time here, so if he didn't know anything, he would be at a disadvantage. When Han Fei searched the middle-aged man's soul, he found that this man was also from the 36 black heavens. Apart from his growth experience, Han Fei quickly found a lot of useful information. First of all, Han Fei could confirm that the area he was in belonged to the infinite ocean. Yes, it was different from the infinite ocean in a broad sense. Broadly speaking, the infinite ocean referred to the endless sea, which was boundless. However, the infinite ocean that people here thought of was a narrow sense. It had a range, a space, and a route. For example, the infinite ocean was divided into the inner sea and the outer sea. People also called this place the chaotic ocean. Just like the name of the cage, some people also called the cage the chaotic ocean. Maybe it was spread by Jin Tong and the others. What separated the inner and outer sea was a vast sea area where one couldn't tell the direction. If one didn't have an accurate route and broke into that sea area from the outer sea, one would generally get lost. And in this middle-aged man's memory, there were a large number of fierce beasts living in that sea area. Even if there was a route, it was still easy to be attacked, not to mention without a route, it would be like a fly flying around randomly. And what was the difference between the inner and outer sea? The energy in the outer sea was mixed, and the spiritual energy was not as rich as that in the inner sea. Besides, there were often terrifying violent hurricanes. Once these hurricanes were formed, very unstable. It was not conducive to cultivation. And the inner sea. The spiritual energy there was rich, and although the energy was violent, human beings had their own means. It can isolate the chaotic energy. Just like the islands in the cage. Apart from that, the resources in the inner sea region were extremely abundant. Although there were mermaids and some other underwater races living there, humans were equally powerful. They could stand up to the sea races. So, danger and opportunity coexist. Although the environment was cruel, but it was also very easy to grow. How could he know about this area? But after being named the boundless sea domain, Han Fei clearly knew the human forces in the inland sea. Among them, the human forces in the inner region were Tai Ching, Primal Chaos, Wuji, Golden Crow, Dragon Subduing, Colored Glass, Boundless, Nine Palaces, Sword God, Dream Weaver, Profound Mystery, Medicine King, and Investiture Gods. There were a total of 13 great immortal palaces, and they were collectively known as the 13 heavens of the inner region. The human forces in the outer sea region were Thunder Fire, Ice Snow, Five Elements, Refined God, Dark Underworld, Corpse Berserk, Blood Fiend, Spectre, 100 Flowers, Blue Cloud, 10,000 Poison, Wind Slayer, and Sanskrit Sound. They were also 13 great forces, collectively known as the Outer 13 Heavens. Yes? The entire 36 profound heavens? Only 26 families remained in the chaotic Azure Sea. As for the other 10, disappear without a trace. Not a trace at all. These 10 families were Yin-Yang Heaven, Waterwood Heaven, Thoughtless Heaven, Silvermoon Heaven, Beast King Heaven, Lihan Heaven, Feather Heaven, Ten-Color Heaven, White Cloud Heaven, and Wujin Heaven. Han Fei naturally knew about Yin-Yang Heaven and Waterwood Heaven. But the remaining 8 families should not be together with Yin-Yang Heaven and Waterwood Heaven. Of course, except for the immortal palaces in the chaotic Azure Sea, there were internal and external forces. Here, there were several super forces that couldn't be ignored. Among them, the top 10 pirate groups were the top forces that humans and sea demons couldn't ignore. Why were they called the top 10 pirate groups? In fact, this middle-aged man knew hundreds of pirate groups, and there were tens of thousands of pirate groups in the entire chaotic Azure Sea. They had already become a super force. In this chaotic Azure Sea, there was a well-known city of pirates called the Martial Emperor City. It was said that this city was protected by an emperor. Although there had never been an emperor in the chaotic Azure Sea, there was a legend about the martial emperor city. It was said that the three kings of the Grand Pure Immortal Palace, Chaotic Immortal Palace, and Wuji Immortal Palace tried to conquer the martial emperor city. As a result, after the three kings came back, they each went into seclusion for 10,000 years. And the martial emperor city was heavy, and pirates still came and went. Moreover, it was said that after that war, the martial emperor city not only provided for pirates to come and go, but also expanded its business to the 36 Xiantian heavens. The martial emperor city opened routes to the 36 Xiantian heavens in the name of business. In fact, a lot of people naturally understood that the three kings were probably hung up and beaten. Later, the legend of the martial emperor became more and more mysterious, so that the business of the martial emperor city was booming. The martial emperor city had no principles. This was a paradise for pirates. They could trade with humans and sea demons. In fact, the trade between pirates and sea demons was quite frequent. This martial emperor city was the unique transcendent existence in the chaotic Azure Sea. Since its establishment, no one could shake the position of the martial emperor city. Whether it was the sea demons or the 36 Xiantian heavens. Therefore, it was not without reason that pirates were prevalent here. After all, the martial emperor city provided them with protection. In the martial emperor city, the major pirate forces also enjoyed absolute safety. No one dared to cause trouble in the martial emperor city. Those who dared to cause trouble were basically dead. After searching the middle-aged man's divine soul, Han Fei even saw the appearance of the martial emperor city. It was a huge black city built in the fog. Outside the city, there was a piece of land that stretched for thousands of miles. And the most peculiar thing was that this martial emperor city was half on land and the other half in the sea. Han Fei quickly searched and only remembered the names of the top 10 pirate groups, because the top 10 pirate groups were led by kings. The top 10 pirate groups were Immortal Pirate Group, Divine Church Pirate Group, Peace Pirate Group, Ravager Pirate Group, Mermaid Pirate Group, Misfortune Pirate Group, Gale Pirate Group, Azura Pirate Group, Red Fire Pirate Group, and Witch Pirate Group. Han Fei was stunned. This was ranked according to the strength of the pirate groups. This Ravager Pirate Group seemed to be ranked 4th among the top 10 pirate groups. It looked like it was quite impressive. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Fortunately, he hadn't killed these people yet. Otherwise, if several venerables died, what would he do if the kings came? In the middle-aged man's memory, the leader of the Ravager Pirate Group was called the Four Crazy Kings. As his name suggested, this person had a crazy personality. Besides, this guy desperately wanted to get into the top 3. Unfortunately, he couldn't get in. Hearing their names, Han Fei knew that they couldn't be good people. Immortal Pirate Group. He knew this. There were secrets behind it. Han Fei had some impression of the Divine Church. When he deduced the fish evolution technique, Han Fei knew this sect. It was a human who turned himself into a sea demon and founded the Divine Church. Then the Peace Pirate Group was a joke. How did you get into the top 3? The Mermaid Pirate Group was clearly a pirate group composed of sea demons. It seemed that not only humans wanted to be pirates, but also sea demons wanted to be pirates. Other than that, there was nothing special about them. Except for the name of the Witch Pirate Group, which seemed very feminine, there was nothing creative about it. In addition to the 36 mysterious heavens, the martial emperor city, and the top 10 pirate groups, the rest were naturally the sea demon forces. And the sea demon forces were mainly divided into the Mermaid Clan, the Seabed Human Clan, the 100 Demons Clan, and the Giant Beast Clan. Among them, Han Fei naturally knew the Mermaid Clan and the Seabed Human Clan. As expected, Xia Shaochan was in the Mermaid Clan. And the 100 Demons Clan was a mixed race other than the Mermaid Clan, collectively known as the 100 Demons Clan. There were also many sea demons who thought they were talented and refused to submit to other forces, calling themselves the 100 Demons Clan. Indeed, in this vast sea, who would be willing to submit to other races? Therefore, this race, the 100 Demons clan, had a great difference in strength. And the Giant Beast clan was a relatively special type of sea demons. They were few in number and had a bad relationship with the human race, sea demons, and pirates. However, the Giant Beast clan had its strengths. They could swim freely in the chaotic Azure Sea. They were also the ones who often attacked human shipping routes. The Giant Beast clan didn't like to transform, but no one knew if they could. They liked to appear in huge bodies with well-developed limbs. In fact, they also had extremely high intelligence. However, this mid-level venerable didn't know much information. There was no conflict between the Mermaid clan, the Seabed Human clan, and the 100 Demons clan, and they often visited each other. However, they had their own shipping routes, so it was difficult to find them. But nominally, the 100 Demons clan and the Seabed Human clan lived in the Outer Sea, while the Mermaid clan occupied the Inner Sea. This seemed to announce its dominance. From this information, Han Fei knew that the Mermaid clan was indeed very powerful. After all, there were 13 profound heavens in the Inner Sea, and the top 10 were all there. So many kings couldn't defeat the Mermaid clan, which was enough to show how powerful the other party was. The pirates, the Seabed Human clan, and the 100 Demons clan didn't have many battles. However, if they encountered the Mermaid clan and the Giant Beast clan, then it might be different. From this complicated network, the most eye-catching one was the Martial Emperor City. This thing was like a bug. Grandma didn't care about it, and Uncle didn't love it. However, it was so powerful that no one dared to mess with it. Han Fei smiled coldly. He was sure that the main force of the raiders was not here at all. The crazy 4 kings might be in the Martial Emperor City, so Han Fei was immediately relieved. Without the kings, he had no opponents here. Han Fei didn't panic at all. Chapter 1691. In addition to the division of forces in the 36 mysterious heavens, Han Fei also got some other information. For example, the vortex he was in, where the Marauder's ship was located, was called the Savage Abyss. It was said that this place was connected to the savage desolate land. In the middle-aged man's memory, he didn't know that the Yin-Yang heaven and the Waterwood heaven were in this savage abyss. To Han Fei's surprise, in the middle-aged man's memory, someone had entered the savage abyss more than once. Yes, someone had entered here, and even a king had entered and come out. However, no one mentioned the existence of the Yin-Yang heaven and the Waterwood heaven, and if a king had come, where did they go? Or had someone visited the Yin-Yang heaven and the Waterwood heaven? It was just that. Mortals were too weak to know about it. Han Fei's heart sank. Since someone had entered and came out, it meant that the secret of the Yin-Yang heaven and the Waterwood heaven was probably exposed. It was just that, for some reason, no one said it out loud. Indeed, Han Fei also felt that there seemed to be something wrong with the Yin-Yang heaven. When Xia Shaochan was awakening, Chen Huangdian went to the Yin-Yang heaven. Later, other people also visited the Yin-Yang heaven, all to find Xia Shaochan. Then, if the wall of death was really unbreakable and even a king couldn't enter, then how did Chen Huangdian's projection get in? At that time, his projection was only an explorer, wasn't it? Why did he enter the Yin-Yang heaven and take Xia Shaochan away? This question made Han Fei fall into deep thought. If the Yin-Yang heaven and the Waterwood heaven had always been exposed, why didn't anyone mention it? Didn't the other 36 immortal palaces help? And didn't the enemies of the Yin-Yang heaven plunder it? Han Fei had a feeling that there might be some unknown secrets behind this incident. High-level Venerable Realm experts knew quite a lot of secrets. From this man's memory, Han Fei found part of the route of the Marauders, knew where the Martial Emperor City was, and knew how to enter the Inner Sea from the Outer Sea. However, this method of entry required the use of either the Marauders' route or someone else's route. With his current strength, of course, it was impossible for him to forcibly use the route of the Marauders. What if he really encountered the 4 crazy kings? He wasn't strong enough right now. His top priority now was to restore his strength. That was the right way. Then, Han Fei saw some of the middle-aged man's past experiences from his memory. These people robbed the human race. Sometimes, they would also attack the 100-demon tribe and the sea humans. They might even attack the merfolk. In any case, as long as they could rob, the marauders would do it. However, the style of this pirate group. Han Fei found that although they were called raiders, they were not bloodthirsty. In the words of the 4 Mad Kings, they were all potential customers. If they let them go this time, there would be a next time. Of course, this did not mean that the marauders were soft. Every time they attacked, at least some people would die in their hands. It all depended on their preferences. Of the top 10 pirate crews, 2 were far more ruthless than the marauders. Among them, the Peace Pirate Group, which was ranked 3rd, was a pirate group with a strange name. They were a group of pirates that only occasionally robbed others. This peaceful pirate group claimed to be the end of pirates. Therefore, robbing pirates was their specialty. Moreover, he would be killed in every tribulation. The other pirate group was the Azura Pirate Group. In the middle-aged man's mind, the leader of this pirate group was obviously a demonic cultivator. He was temperamental, murderous, and extremely cruel. It was said that none of the venerables caught by the Azura pirates survived. Han Fei slowly opened his eyes and glanced at the dozen or so people on the ship. On this ship alone, there were 5 venerables. This was enough to show the strength of the marauders. And as far as Han Fei knew, although the strength of the people outside might be generally stronger. However, the venerable realm was not exaggerated to a terrifying extent. At least, from the middle-aged man, Han Fei knew that each of the 13 outer heavens had about 400 or 500 venerable realm powerhouses. And in the 13 inner heavens, each family had about 700 or 800 venerables. There were indeed a lot of them. If this number were to be placed in the yin-yang sky, it would probably disappear with just a single breath of air from each person. And this was only the number of venerables that the middle-aged man knew. It was estimated that it was also the number of venerables that the major Xian heavens had. It was hard to say how many venerables they really had. However, what horrified Han Fei was that there were so many strong masters in just the 26 major immortal palaces. There were only 10 pirate groups, and there were 10 kings, that martial emperor city could guard the chaotic ocean. Maybe there were emperors there. In that case, how many venerables did the mermaid clan have? How many kings? Similarly, Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, at the end of the Age of Gods and the Age of Doom, were the yin-yang sky and the waterwood sky also so strong? Were there so many venerables? Why did they have to hide in the savage abyss? Han Fei guessed that this matter shouldn't have much to do with the nautical multitude globe. Otherwise, why would the 9 palace sky and the golden crow sky still be in the inner sea of the chaotic ocean? After sorting out his thoughts, Han Fei glanced at these people and couldn't help but say, leave the ship, leave the resources, leave the weapons, and leave the battle suits behind, and then get lost. The purpose of these people's trip was just to be attracted here. Because there was an anomaly in the savage abyss, which might have something to do with him. Han Fei didn't want to expose himself too much. At the beginning, he knew that the middle-aged man guessed that he was a mermaid, and he didn't deny it, so he just let these people guess blindly. At that time, the pirates were stunned. You fucking left us here. Hey, no. Boss, why didn't you let them go? Han Fei glanced at the middle-aged man under his control and said indifferently, this man has to die. On the Marauder, the ferocious pirates were all horrified. Boss had to die, but they could live. Why was this man so weird? Seeing that they were still hesitating, Han Fei couldn't help but look displeased. In 3 seconds, those who don't leave will die. Swish, swish, swish. He watched as those people ran away very quickly. As the saying went, a wise man submits to circumstances. Now, Han Fei was invincible here. The fact that he was willing to let them go meant that there was something wrong with his brain. After all, since he dared to kill their boss, it didn't matter if he killed them. Sure enough, after those people fled, Han Fei waved his hand and said, Old Yuan, you have just broken through to the advanced venerable realm and your realm is not stable yet. This man is yours. A smile appeared on the old turtle's face, but he was not in a hurry. Instead, he asked, "Why did you let those people go? Isn't this releasing fish to the sea? Sooner or later, they will come again." Han Fei smiled faintly. "I'm new here. There's no need for me to offend a king. I'm here to find people, not to kill a king. Of course, it shouldn't be a problem to kill one or two. This man's soul is controlled by me. I don't want to expose this ability." Han Fei reached out and grabbed the Sun Moon shells, weapons, battle suits, and other equipment that were left in midair. After a brief glance, he found as many as 80 Dark Moon wolf fish among the Sun Moon shells, all of which had just died. Those Dark Moon pearls hadn't been used yet. Han Fei certainly wouldn't swallow these Dark Moon pearls without hesitation. After a while, when Han Fei's soul power increased by more than 3,000 points, he couldn't help but grin and sigh. "So many venerables, but you only caught these few fish? How dare you call yourself a pirate? And rank third? You're a disgrace to pirates." The old turtle, as for the other resources accumulated by these people, they were things that Han Fei basically didn't need. In addition to some escape pearls, in addition to refining materials and spiritual fruits, there were also nearly 100,000 ultra-quality spiritual stones. The moment he saw the ultra-quality spiritual stones, Han Fei thought to himself, the spiritual stone resources here seem to be very developed. Putting them away, Han Fei turned his head and said, "Okay. You've made a breakthrough. Help me keep an eye on them for a while. I'm about to recover to the peak of the Venerable Realm, but you interrupted me." The old turtle said leisurely, "Go ahead. I'll swallow this man." Han Fei didn't even need to change places. During this time, he deliberately didn't come out of the vortex. At least, he could appear in his peak state. After all, he didn't bring little Fatty with him. Otherwise, if he was killed, he wouldn't be able to resurrect. 2 months later. When Han Fei came out of Forge the Universe, his strength had recovered to the Demi-King realm. As soon as his strength returned, Han Fei immediately came out of seclusion. The old turtle said in surprise, "So fast?" Han Fei said lightly, "You're right. Disassembling spiritual energy can indeed speed up the recovery of my strength." "Oh right, you said that you're suppressing that power. Do you want to release it?" The old turtle said, "I'm afraid not for the time being. I can release some of it to you first." Han Fei thought to himself, "Are you looking down on me? My current endurance is beyond your imagination, okay?" In the next moment, no one knew what the old turtle did, but with a hum, Han Fei's body trembled unconsciously. A massive amount of pure energy instantly spread to his limbs and bones. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. When Han Fei found that he was getting fatter, he quickly shouted, "Stop, stop, stop. That's enough. This has already affected my strength." Hearing Han Fei's shout, the old turtle suppressed the power again. Han Fei couldn't help but say in horror, "No, old Yuan. Why is there so much power? How much have you released?" The old turtle said leisurely, 2 or 3%. Han Fei. Chapter 1692. Han Fei was speechless. How much force did he bear in order to leave the cage? He couldn't even bear it with his current strength of the half-king realm. This energy was not ordinary energy. This kind of power was like the fat in the human body compared to the great Tao. Ordinary fighting. You didn't need it at all. You could only absorb it slowly by yourself. You needed to exercise from time to time. In fact, you could only absorb it slowly by constantly sharpening it in battles. Just as the old turtle had said, unless he practiced the great mystery body, now. Otherwise, how could he digest and absorb this thing now? The level of difficulty wasn't just a little high. Han Fei didn't hesitate too much. If he couldn't digest it quickly, he would digest it slowly. After all, he hadn't reached the peak of the half-king realm yet. There was still a lot of room for improvement. Han Fei found that no one had come to him for more than 2 months. It seemed that the death of a venerable was not a big deal for the pirates. Therefore, Han Fei released the marauder pirate ship. There were many things he could learn from this ship. The Avenger that he had built back then was far inferior to this ship. The Avenger was a complicated ship array piled up by countless arrays. However, this ship was different. This ship had activated a defensive barrier, and there was no messy and complicated array formation at all. Obviously, it didn't mean that this ship didn't need arrays, but that the other party put the arrays in other places that couldn't be seen. Besides, this ship had an energy cannon that could launch an attack with the power of a half-king realm. What was that thing filled with? Considering that in the chaotic vast sea, you either had to take someone else's ship or have your own ship. If you took someone else's ship, except for the pirate ship, you could only go to the outer 13 heavens. Then you could take someone else's ship and go to the inner area. This was more complicated. After all, if you took someone else's ship, they had a fixed route. You couldn't go wherever you wanted. And there was actually a problem with using your own ship. The most important thing was that you didn't have a route. Although Han Fei knew the route of the marauder pirate ship, if he foolishly ran to their route, wouldn't he be courting death? After all, every safe route was artificially created and recognized by the major races. Otherwise, wouldn't you, a human, be asking for trouble by foolishly running into the territory of the merfolk race and invading their territorial waters? However, Han Fei had the navigator. He could open up a waterway by himself. Although the navigational panorama could only be used 3 times a day, this kind of directional route usually only needed one direction. Generally speaking, having a boat was better than not having a boat. Although he had robbed the raider's ship, he hadn't made up his mind yet because it seemed safe to take the normal route. Those normal sea routes were also the normal trade routes of the 13 heavens. The trade of resources between the inner and outer seas created the prosperity of the 36 Suantians. It was also because of the prosperity of trade that pirates would rob others from time to time. It was the same principle. In the chaotic Azure Sea, those who dared to sail on these normal routes were basically not afraid of pirates. It could even be said that there were often people who specialized in sniping pirates on the sea routes. After all, a pirate king would not participate in ordinary robberies. Their actions were being watched by many pairs of eyes. Once a pirate king took action, he often became the enemy of the world. For this reason, the strength of the top 10 pirate groups had also changed many times. In the middle-aged man's memory, the Azura Pirates was the only pirate group that often had a pirate king but had not been wiped out. However, the Azura Pirates were so hated by everyone that they ranked 8th among the top 10 pirate groups. When Han Fei took out this ship, a smile unconsciously appeared on the corner of his mouth. It was really a long-lost feeling. He would become a captain again. This feeling was wonderful. The phantoms of mountains and rivers appeared, and Xiao Sei and Nian emerged in the phantoms. In Nian-er's arms, there was a big white rabbit. Nian-er said in surprise, "Ah. Brother, are we finally out?" Han Fei smiled slightly. Nian-er, good girl. In the future, we will have our own territory. Look, this is my spoil of war, a big ship. A big ship. Nian-er ran to the side of the ship with the rabbit in her arms. Looking at the surging waves, she seemed a little excited. She was also very curious about such a world. Although she had known about the ghost ship before, she had never been out herself. So, what did a captain look like? It was the first time that Nian had seen one. He heard her running from the south to the north, from the beginning to the end, curious about everything. Nian-er kept asking, "Brother, what is this? It's so high. This is a mast. What about this? That's a crossbar. It's used to fix the side and rear ropes." Nian-er asked, "What's a rope?" "It's a rope or chain that hangs the mast." "What about this?" "This is an anchor. When the ship is about to stop, throw the anchor into the sea. The huge anchor hooks the boulders on the seamount and can pull the hull to stop the ship." This question and answer were quite smooth. After all, Han Fei was an old captain. He could blurt out such a simple question without thinking. Then Han Fei took out a row of big pots to attract Nian Er's attention. Han Fei really didn't want to be a pirate at this moment. In fact, he came here to find his sister, and he had to go back. So, he didn't want to be a pirate. Han Fei changed the sails to beige-white, replaced the shark head bow, and replaced it with a steel triangular head, which was used to cleave the wind and break the waves. Of course, in the center of the triangular head, there was an energy cannon that could exert a strike from a demi-king. While cooking the hot pot, Han Fei was also multitasking. He forged in the void and changed the symbols of the pirate ships, such as the anchors, the masts, the axles on the deck, and so on. Of course, Han Fei hadn't studied arrays yet. After a while brushing oil on the barbecue, Han Fei said to Nian Er. What is the time armor? Can you tell me about it? Hearing this, Nian Er squatted beside Han Fei, almost drooling, and said without thinking, well, there are many ways to use it. For example, you can block the dislocated time in front of you. When people hit you, they will hit another time. Also, you can slow down or speed up the surrounding time. In this way, the power of others' attacks will be out of your control. Brother, what are we eating? Han Fei nodded. This is called charcoal grilled garlic prawns, teppanyaki squid, lobster hot pot. Don't rush, we have to wait for a while. Hey, Nian Er, how do you use the time shackles? Nian Er blinked and said, just like this. Intercept a period of time and use it to tie people up, so that the time before and after overlaps, forming an infinite barrier of time. In this way, people are trapped. However, people who are more powerful can break free at once. Han Fei's heart surged. It sounds interesting. However, it's too difficult to intercept time, and I can't do it yet. Han Fei asked, what about time transformation? Xiao Sei watched from the side, feeling speechless. You're already a demi-king, but you're fooling a child. Aren't you ashamed? After a while, the hot pot was ready. Han Fei, Nian Er, Old Yuan, and Xiao Sei sat around the hot pot. Among them, Nian had already started eating. Her garlic prawns had long been roasted. At this moment, his mouth was full of grease, and his lips were sticky from the food. Han Fei used the god-deceiving precious technique to reduce his strength to that of a beginner venerable. Han Fei said, remember the purpose of our trip. Don't make trouble and don't fight easily. You can hunt marine creatures, but don't make enemies with strong masters, especially pirates. Well, that's it. From today on, I will pretend to be a genius master of a big family. Old Yuan, Xiao Sei, both of you are now my followers. If there's anything, I won't do anything. Let's find a place to dock in the 13 heavens and go there. This trip will be half a success. Understand? The old turtle couldn't help saying, as long as you don't make trouble. Xiao Sei nodded. Okay. However, it's best to let Little Master stay in human society for some time to adapt to the human world. After all, Little Master's real realm is actually not weak. It won't take long for her to break through the realm of peak-level law enforcer. We can't wait until Little Master's strength reaches the peak before we teach her some life skills. Han Fei said lightly, life is everywhere. What's important is the communication between people. I can tell that you don't know how to take care of children. Find a school for them and let them study for half a year. That's more effective than you talking to them. Xiao Sei glanced at Xiao Sei grumpily, thinking, who will take care of the child, me or you? Han Fei said, let's get down to business. Let's stick to the principle of not making trouble. Let's leave here today and go to other territories of the 36 heavens first. Less than half an hour after Han Fei said this, suddenly, Han Fei and the old turtle both turned their heads. Immediately, Han Fei got up and said, son of a bitch. It's only the first day I've been out, and I've been targeted again. Is there a GPS on this ship? The void shook, and with a swish, 3 large ships broke out of the void in a row. The hulls of these 3 large ships showed very clean silver armor. However, they didn't seem to belong to the Ravagers, did they? The other party's ship was obviously different from the ship that he robbed. The other party's ship looked cleaner and shiny. With a large piece of lobster meat in her mouth, Little Time looked at the big ship opposite curiously and said, "Brother, a ship is coming." Han Fei narrowed his eyes and said lightly, "Nian, remember, don't show your strength casually." In the next moment, 7 or 8 women appeared in a row with a swoosh. The person in the lead clearly had the strength of a half-king. One of the women said, "Sister Wu, look, this is the person I told you about last time. He's only a junior venerable, but he's extremely strong." The woman called Sister Wu glanced at the barrels on the hull of Han Fei's ship, slightly puzzled. A subordinate of the Crazy 4 Kings? Why has the ship been changed like this? The woman took a step forward and directly stepped in front of Han Fei's ship. "Who are you? Tell me the truth." Han Fei saw that there seemed to be light surging on the 3 ships of the other party, which seemed to be something similar to energy cannons. So, the other party was going to attack them? And this time, the other party had a half-king. Han Fei looked at the ship in the distance, and there seemed to be a woman standing on the bow of the ship, who was probably not a simple character. Phew, Han Fei was speechless. Is my luck so bad after leaving the Yin-Yang heaven? It was obvious that they had encountered the witch pirates. First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1693. Han Fei was speechless. So, the people he met last time should be from the witch pirates. Han Fei felt that there were 10,000 iron-head fish galloping in his heart. What day is this? I just got out of the cage. Why am I so unlucky? My strength was suppressed, and it took me 7 or 8 months to recover. As soon as he came up, he encountered 2 major pirate groups and a lot of strong masters. What? Do you think there are treasures in the Savage Abyss? Do you all want to come here to make some money? At this moment, Han Fei concluded that there should be 2 strong masters on these 3 big ships. Just based on the size of the ships, the Demoness pirate group's 3 ships were at least 3 times larger than the one he was on. For pirates, the hulls shouldn't be too big. For example, the dragon boat should be big, right? But it was also bulky. Compared to his own, their ships were big, which was a symbol of their rank. At this moment, the girl called Sister Wu was shouting at Han Fei. Han Fei had read the basic information of the witch pirates from the memory of the middle-aged man. The witch pirates were a pirate group that only accepted female pirates. And the queen of the witch pirates was called the Black Phoenix Demon. She had 4 generals under her command, each leading the 4 strongest warships. These warships were named after the captains, namely, Pearl, Dragon Dance, Cloud Rising, and Cold Moon. And now, Han Fei was right. This person should be one of the 4 generals of the witch pirates, the captain of the Dragon Dance, Long Wu herself. But Han Fei looked at the woman standing on the big ship behind him. Her aura seemed to be comparable to Long Wu's. When Han Fei took a closer look, he realized that what was glowing on that ship didn't seem to be an energy cannon. What was it if it wasn't a pearl? Ha! If Han Fei guessed correctly, that should be the pearl, right? Han Fei didn't know if it was because he forced himself to use the 9 Palace Ruler of Destiny, so he was still unlucky now. 2 of the Demoness pirate crew's 4 great generals had appeared. Was it really because he made too much noise when he came out? But why didn't he feel anything? Hey! I'm asking you a question. Someone laughed and said, I'm afraid you're scared silly. Women. This was especially so for women who were pirates. Not only were they impatient, but they were also fierce. Han Fei was stunned for a moment before he began to ramble. Han Fei thought to himself, if I run away now, it's definitely not too late. However, Nian, Xiao Sei, and Old Yuan were still here. When he stored them in the sea-quelling painting, they might attack. Even if they could escape, the ship would definitely be gone. This was a ship that he had just snatched, and he hadn't had time to study it yet. How did these people find him? How could he appear here with his ship? Unfortunately, he didn't have the time to think about these problems. It was impossible to escape. The two demi-monarchs should not be a match for him. But the problem was, once he killed the two generals of the Demoness pirate crew, the Black Phoenix Demoness would definitely fly into a rage and chase him to the ends of the earth. Baji. Nian stood beside Han Fei and ate the garlic prawns in her mouth. She looked at Long Wu and the other venerables and then at Han Fei. Brother, are these the legendary bad guys? Han Fei was amused. What a poor child. Even the bad guys only existed in legends. As for Long Wu and the rest, they were confused. Why did this person come out with a child? Anne. This child looked very young, but his strength had already reached the peak level of the venerable realm. Someone couldn't help but squint. Sister Wu, did the soul ball of the marauders kidnap some heavenly talent? Someone nodded. This child is too cute. He's so beautiful. He's obviously not from this world. Someone agreed. Yes. Sister Wu, this child is so cute. He must have been kidnapped by these people. Hearing this, Han Fei frowned and glanced at Nian. Suddenly, he thought of something and snorted, what a bunch of bitches. Why are you still nagging? Kidnap a child? That's so mean. You are the Demoness pirate crew. Is that all you can do? A woman sneered. Ha! Boy, you know we are the Demoness pirate crew. Why are you so arrogant? It seems that you are ready to be fed to the fish. A woman wasn't worried about the danger at all and sneered, what? The strongest of you is only an advanced venerable. Kid, why are you still so arrogant? How proud and arrogant was the old tortoise. When he was called that tortoise, he was about to explode. Seeing the old turtle blurt out, Han Fei immediately said, Old Huang, that's enough. I can't beat them. What's wrong with me saying a few words? Han Fei rubbed Nian's head and said, Nian, be a good girl. Whether they are bad or not depends on whether they do bad things or not. You continue to eat. It's just a small problem now. The woman who had been chased by Han Fei before said, Small problem, I'm afraid you don't know your current situation. By the way, didn't you say that you are an old monster more than 4,000 years old? And, when I saw you last time, I didn't see this sea monster old turtle and this child beside you. Han Fei rolled his eyes at her. What do you know? I don't know you. How can I tell you the truth? Han Fei sneered, his whole body shook, spiritual energy fluctuated, and air waves surged under his body. Han Fei said, Okay. Since you want to know who I am. Then I am not afraid to tell you, I am a legend wandering in the chaotic sea in pursuit of delicious food. The explorer of the best taste in the world, the master of smell and taste, and the coexistence of talent and wisdom. Clang Long Wu held out a big spear in her hand and looked at Han Fei coldly. One more nonsense and you will die. Han Fei paused and then waved his hand. You are so boring. Okay, since you want to know, I have to reveal my top secret identity that I have hidden for many years, Clang. Seeing a flash of silver light, Han Fei felt that the woman was about to stab him with her spear. Han Fei immediately roared, I, Han Fei, am the Chef King. The group of female nobles looked at each other in dismay. They were stunned for a long time before they burst into laughter. Someone sneered. Are you stupid? You call yourself a Chef King? Who on earth gave you the courage? Someone curled her lips. I hate that kind of braggart the most. Sister Wu, kill him. Hey, Han Fei waved his hand and immediately shouted, I said you are a group of silly women. I said I am the Chef King, not a sea pioneer king. In the art of cooking, there is absolutely no one in the world who can be mentioned in the same breath as me. Even the martial emperors of the martial emperor city have to admit defeat. Long Wu, the female venerables, seeing that these women were speechless, Han Fei clenched his fist, and the garlic prawns that were still being grilled on the grill flew towards Long Wu and the others. Han Fei sneered. You don't seem to have seen the world. How dare you laugh at me when you haven't even tasted my dishes? Han Fei combed the hair between his eyebrows with a disdainful smile. Because Han Fei was a half-king realm powerhouse, he was really not afraid of them. Even if these people insisted on attacking him, he could at most kill them all at once. As for the pursuit of the Xian Feng demon girl, where could she go? Long Wu pinched a garlic prawn with her fingers. When the fragrance of garlic drifted into her nostrils, the corner of her mouth twitched. How many years has it been since the last time she ate seriously? Today, she was actually tempted by such a low-level shrimp. Long Wu stretched out her hand and was about to take a bite, when someone beside her said, Sister Wu, be careful. Long Wu said lightly, do you think I am afraid of poison? With that, Long Wu took a bite gently. Suddenly, she only felt that her mouth was full of fragrance, and she was shocked. This thing, a little shrimp, can be so delicious. The female venerables looked at Long Wu's reaction, and Long Wu saw that Han Fei and Nian were looking at her eagerly. Nian also took a bite of the shrimp meat and said, Brother, you gave everything to the sisters. Han Fei said seriously, Nian, you have to understand these sisters. They have never eaten good food in their lives. How pitiful are they? Nian thought of when she was on the side of the abyssal chasm, she could only eat energy. Those days were so hard. Nian nodded frantically. She even waved at Long Wu and said, Sister, you are so pitiful. Why don't you follow brother in the future? Brother will make a lot of delicious food. Look, this is a piece of ginseng. After that, Nian took out a fish skin bag of potato chips, which were all made with seasoning. As she spoke, Nian took a bite and said, Big sister, it's delicious. Long Wu subconsciously took another bite of the garlic prawn. As a result, she realized that she had actually taken another bite after she had bitten it. Immediately, Long Wu snorted softly. It's just cooking. However, Long Wu's next sentence stunned all the honored ladies. She said, the ship has been confiscated by the Demoness pirate group. You guys, board the dragon dance. Don't you know how to cook? In the future, there will be a place for you to cook. Han Fei's face changed drastically. Hey! Wait, what do you mean by that? I, Han Fei, am the king of chefs. You want me to cook for you every day? You. Seeing Long Wu looking at him fiercely, Han Fei immediately snorted. Okay. I can temporarily go to your ship and let you taste the delicacies of the human world. But you want me to stay on your ship all the time? That's impossible. Second update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1694. The old turtle was speechless the whole time. If possible, he really didn't want to know Han Fei. This guy had been acting from the beginning to the end. His acting skills were exaggerated, but he still succeeded. After all, he really knew how to cook delicious food. And Xiao Sei was speechless. This scene doesn't feel right. Although this Han Fei and the Han Fei she met before were both very naughty, she always felt that this Han Fei. Wouldn't he lead the children astray? Nian looked at Han Fei, then at the hot pot, and then at their ship. Brother, have we been caught? The women raised their eyebrows. Is this a catch? He's clearly inviting you to cook. Being able to cook for the witch pirates, and there are 3 of you. This honor is unique in the world. Han Fei looked at Nian seriously and said, Nian how could we have been caught? Those big sisters must have been attracted by your big brother's delicious food. In their hearts, they are extremely eager for us to stay on their ship. Occasionally, I will cook a delicious meal for them and let them appreciate the delicious food of the human world. But, women. He always said one thing but meant another. Even though he wanted to die in his heart, he still refused to admit it. But I, your brother, am always willing to help others. Long Wu turned around. If you don't shut up, I'll sew your mouth. The dragon dance and the pearl had arrived, and Han Fei's ship had been absorbed. Under the covetous gaze of a group of female supremacies, Han Fei had no choice but to take Nian, and the others to the dragon dance. Nian, looked around and said, "Brother, poor sisters, they robbed us of our hot pot." Suddenly, the female supremacies who looked at Han Fei and the others blushed. "Who robbed you of your hot pot?" "This little girl." In Han Fei's heart, the old turtle said, "Now that this matter has come to us, are you going to stay on their ship forever?" Han Fei said, "I think they must have a plan for the savage abyss. Otherwise, why would the witch pirate group, one of the 10 great pirate groups, have 2 war generals appear here?" The old turtle said, "Then it's up to you." The dragon dance was naturally more advanced than the ship captured by Han Fei. Although their ship was not big, the materials used to build the hull were relatively advanced. For example, this dragon dance was made from the bones of a venerable and some random, unknown materials. Come to think of it, any ship that could be named by name would not be too bad. Of course, the hull wouldn't be too big. After all, the amount of materials consumed was an astronomical figure. Among the venerables looking at Han Fei and the others, someone said, "Han Fei, right? I've made a cabin for you. Also, you're a chef, so you don't need a place, right? Just stay on the deck. Let the others go to the cabin. You take the little girl to meet our 2 captains." Han Fei didn't panic. He said to old Yuan, "Go ahead. I'll be right back." Holding Nian-er's hand, Han Fei wanted to see what these 2 captains were up to. A moment later, Han Fei crossed Dragon Dance and came to the deck of Pearl. At this moment, there were only 2 people on the deck. Long Wu and a slightly buff woman dressed in gray and light yellow battle robes. In terms of appearance, Han Fei saw that the 2 of them were full of heroic spirit. Because of her oval face, Han Fei couldn't see the fierceness on her face, only the fierceness in her eyes. After seeing the 2 of them, Nian-er whispered, "Brother, these 2 sisters look so fierce." Hearing this, Pearl and Long Wu couldn't help but reflect on themselves. Are we fierce? We didn't show anything. As the saying goes, children's words carry no harm. As 2 demi-kings, they certainly wouldn't argue with a little girl. Han Fei said, be good. I have something to talk to the 2 sisters. Here's a toy for you to play with first. Then Han Fei reached out and threw a 3rd-grade Rubik's Cube to Nian-er. The Rubik's Cube might not be able to fool others, but it was enough to fool Nian-er. After all, Nian had lived alone in the time gap of the abyssal chasm for tens of thousands of years, and she had spent all that time entertaining herself. Now, although not everyone liked the Rubik's Cube, it was better than nothing, right? Pa Nian-er spun the Rubik's Cube, and Han Fei looked at the 2 of them. What's the matter? Do you need me to bring the child here? Pearl said, Your name is Han Fei, right? This is the Pearl. Since you know this is the ship of the witch pirates, don't treat it as your own home. I can keep you alive, but I can also kill you. Huh? Nian-er suddenly raised her head and frowned. Brother, Han Fei smiled and said, Nian-er, be good. I'm just joking with you. Han Fei stepped on the ground and quietly set up a soundproof array around Nian-er, which surprised Pearl and Long Wu. Long Wu said, Are you also a spirit gatherer? Han Fei said lightly, I'm kidding. Don't you need a raise to be a chef? If you don't know a raise, how can you be a chef? Pearl and Long Wu glanced at each other. Do you need to know a raise to have a meal? So, if I don't know a raise, I don't eat right, do I? Han Fei said, If you have something to say, just ask. I don't think the witch pirate group is that unreasonable. You robbed my ship, so be it. But I don't have any tribulation left. If you want the Sun Moon shell, I can give it to you. Pearl didn't care about the Sun Moon shell at all. She said coldly, You mentioned a ship. What's the matter with your ship? That's clearly the ship of the Ravagers. Although the appearance has been changed, the core of the ship has not. What do you have to say? Han Fei shrugged. If I said I cooked a meal for them and they gave it to me, would you believe me? Pearl and Long Wu didn't believe this nonsense. Did they get hit in the head by an ironhead fish? Why did they give you such a good ship for nothing? Pearl said again, do you really think you can survive just because you know how to cook? Han Fei immediately waved his hand and said, okay. You win. It's just a ship. I robbed it. Otherwise, how could I appear on it? Long Wu shouted, you robbed it. How could you rob it? How could you break the ship array with just the three of you? Han Fei thought to himself, so this is what you want to ask. However, Han Fei smiled lightly. What's so difficult about that? I deliberately let them catch me and then robbed the ship. It's such a simple trick. Don't you understand? Hearing Han Fei's words, Long Wu and Pearl immediately confirmed the feasibility of this method. After all, Han Fei also had an advanced venerable on his side. If he deliberately let himself be caught, it was indeed possible to take that ship without touching the ship array at all. So Pearl continued, okay, you're quite honest. What's the matter with that turtle demon? You are both a spirit gatherer and a real human being. Why are you with that turtle demon? Why does that turtle demon listen to you? Han Fei smiled and said, I thought you wanted to ask. Why do humans and sea demons mix together? Let's put it this way. Old Yuan is my servant. And Old Yuan is not a sea demon. To be precise, Old Yuan is a giant beast. A giant beast? Long Wu frowned but didn't speak. She was just a little surprised. It was the first time she had heard that a giant beast could transform into a human. She didn't expect to see it for the first time. Long Wu said, then why are you here? Han Fei grinned and said, that's even simpler. Of course, we're here for the Tao-seeking fish. The Tao-seeking fish is the best in the world. Nian, is a peak-level law enforcer. It's very simple for me to get a Tao-seeking fish to nourish my body and pass a tribulation. Hearing this, Long Wu didn't think it was a problem for a guy like Han Fei who knew how to cook. Everything seemed to be fine. However, Han Fei always gave people a sense of unreality. It was the first time in her life that she had met a cook, and such a powerful one at that. Pearl said, I believe what you said is right. However, this little girl has a good aptitude. How about letting her stay in the Witch Pirates? If you agree, you can take the other two and leave now. Han Fei grinned and looked back at Nian, Nian, also looked back at Han Fei curiously. Han Fei looked back at Pearl and said with a faint smile, I don't agree. Long Wu's face suddenly turned cold, and she shouted, say that again. Han Fei still said with a smile, I don't agree. Long Wu's pressure immediately descended, and the smile on Han Fei's face immediately turned cold. There was a terrifying fierceness in his eyes. Han Fei was someone who had even slaughtered kings and venerables. A half-king could only take 2 moves from him. How could he be afraid of them? He boarded the witch pirate's ship just to explore the savage abyss. Otherwise, he would have killed these people long ago. Sure enough, when Han Fei raised his head, Pearl was slightly moved by his momentum at that moment. She said, okay, Long Wu. The Witch Pirates is the most reasonable one among the top 10 pirate groups. It's your luck to meet us. Take this little girl back. Han Fei immediately regained his previous smile. By the way, may I ask, why did the 2 generals of the Witch Pirates appear outside the barbaric sea? Pearl glanced at Han Fei indifferently. This has nothing to do with you. You'd better not ask. I'm keeping you here just for the sake of this little girl. Otherwise, humph. Part 3. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1695. Han Fei couldn't help but secretly smile. So it was because of Nian that he could get on this ship. However, it didn't matter. After all, he had just arrived here, and it was not enough for him to understand this world through just one person's memories. For example, the Demoness pirate group wasn't as scary as he had imagined. When Han Fei returned to Dragon Dance with Nian couldn't help but ask, "Brother, are we still eating?" Han Fei smiled and said, "Of course. Come on, let's go cook." Han Fei didn't panic at all. It seemed that the Dragon Dance and the Pearl did not intend to leave this region of the sea for the time being. Since they didn't leave, they must have their own motives. Although staying here might be a waste of time, it was not a small matter for others to place so much importance on this matter. Han Fei knew very well that it might involve some secrets of the Savage Abyss. Since it involved the Savage Abyss, it could be related to Yin-Yang Heaven and Waterwood Heaven. Therefore, Han Fei wouldn't leave now. There weren't many people on Dragon Dance, only 48 in total. Among them, 32 were half-venerables. There wasn't a single person below the half-venerable realm. From this, it could be seen that the Dragon Dance and the Pearl were all elites. Besides, judging from the situation when Han Fei met them for the first time, these people were exploring the Savage Abyss while training their troops. The Dark Moon Wolf Fish was beneficial to these people, especially those half-venerables. If they were really fed tens or hundreds of Dark Moon Wolf Fish, they might be able to directly help them become venerable ones. At this moment, Han Fei led Nian to sit on the deck as if there was no one else around and took out a big pot casually. A Dark Moon Wolf Fish was pulled out by Han Fei. The big fish was tossed, and with a snap of the fingers, Saber Chi was unleashed. The infinity water cut through the Dark Moon Wolf Fish within a very narrow range. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of thin slices of fish meat were floating in the air, glittering and translucent. The remaining fish head, bones, skin, and organs were wrapped in a ball of water. At this time, Han Fei flicked his fingers and threw them all into the sea. "Hiss," a woman said, "Hey. The bones of the Dark Moon Wolffish are very good materials for refining weapons. Why did you throw them away just like that?" The one who spoke was a half-exalted realm woman with a frown on her face. Since Han Fei was tied up, he should look like he was tied up. "You and everything you have on you are ours." However, Han Fei raised his head and smiled. "What's the point of keeping the dregs? You're a member of the Dragon Dance, yet you're interested in such trash." However, Long Wu and Pearl had seen this scene from the start. Long Wu said, "Pearl, this person is too infuriating. You've obviously been captured by us, but you act as if nothing happened. Is he really not afraid of us killing him?" Pearl said lightly, "People are only not afraid because they have confidence. Although this person said that he could only cook, did you see his knife skills just now?" In the blink of an eye, the 10,000 blade shadow had cut every piece of fish into the same size, as if he had done something insignificant. From this, it can be seen how exquisite his divine control is. Long Wu frowned. "That's nothing. After all, he's a venerable. Moreover, I heard from Lil Fan that this person can fight above his level, so it should be natural for him to be able to do this." Pearl shook her head slightly. "No, a person's temperament won't lie. This person's careless control made it seem as if he was doing something insignificant. Also, from his tone and attitude when talking to you and me, it can be seen that he has no fear in his heart. Just now, when I said that I wanted that little girl, his aura made me feel a little scared. This kind of aura can't be cultivated by a small family." Long Wu said in surprise, "You mean he's a peerless heavenly talent of one of the 36 mysterious heavens?" Pearl nodded slightly. "Yes. This person is either a hidden peerless heavenly talent of one of the 13 outer heavens, or a peerless heavenly talent of one of the 13 inner heavens. Do you really think that the Marauder's ship can be taken so easily?" Long Wu's face changed slightly. "Then why did you send me a voice transmission just now?" Pearl smiled. "I don't believe that they came here just to hunt Dao-seeking fish. What if they came here for the same purpose as us? Or... Forget it." Pearl wanted to say something but hesitated. She didn't continue because it was just her personal guess. Long Wu didn't notice the details of Pearl's change, but her face turned cold. Are they also coveting the savage abyss? Pearl replied, I'm not sure. But among the 36 mysterious heavens, which one can you think of who uses a knife? Long Wu said, it's hard to say. Every family has a knife cultivator. The people of the Sword God Palace are good at using swords and knives. Pearl nodded slightly. That's true. Let's observe for a few more days. Doesn't this person like to cook? Then let him do it. Let's see what he can do. On the deck, Han Fei moved slightly and ignited the spiritual fire, making the big pot boiling hot. At this time, Han Fei grabbed a large mass of water from the void. The water went into the pot, making a sizzling sound and steaming smoke. A spoonful of fish oil covered the water, and Han Fei made a gesture with one hand. It was an array seal. Fish slices flew in the sky as if they had wings, lining up, entering the pot from the left side and then coming out from the right side. When the fish slices came out of the pot, the fish slices flashed with golden light, which was the brightening effect of the fish oil. This was the brightening effect of the fish oil, and everyone on the boat was stunned. On the dragon dance, many people looked over. It turned out that food could be cooked like this. Even on the Pearl, a group of people was watching with their perception. Nian, who was closest to Han Fei, swallowed from time to time and clapped her little hands. Brother, it's so beautiful. Can I eat it? Han Fei smiled. You want to eat? Nian, good things come out last. You can't eat delicious food in a hurry. Don't be impatient. Remember? Yes. I remember. However, Nian-er's eyes were fixed on the fish slices. Han Fei knew that the girl didn't remember anything. She just ignored his words. Han Fei didn't care. He sprinkled the water in the pot into the sea and then steamed it. After the fish oil, minced garlic, red peppers, and ginger were fried in the pot, the dragon dance was immediately filled with a fragrant aroma. Hiss. Gulp. Oh my god, what's that? On the dragon dance, people were exclaiming to each other via voice transmission. Someone exclaimed, cooking is like practicing an unparalleled technique. How can it be so smooth? Is this person really a chef king? Bah! What chef king? He gave it to himself. Gulp. At this moment, Han Fei put the fish slices into the pot. Chilla, Han Fei said, Nian, the fish is fresh and tender. Coat it with a layer of fish oil to make it tougher. It won't break easily in this big fire. After Han Fei said that, Han Fei flipped the pot and a pillar of fire soared to the sky, reaching 10 meters high. In the flames, golden light flickered. Han Fei smiled slightly, and a spirit-gathering array appeared in the air. When a huge amount of spiritual energy quickly gathered into the meat slices, the dish was finished. The onlookers all looked at each other in shock. So he didn't dare to cook now because he knew the spirit-gathering technique? How could this be called cooking? This thing was simply a feast of art. It was simply too beautiful to be absorbed in. Even Long Wu and Pearl couldn't help but look at each other. Were they really wrong? Is this guy really the unique chef king in this world? Han Fei grabbed the air and used clear water as a plate. In an instant, the plate was divided into 100 parts. On each part, 88 slices of fish fell. With the plate as the center line, the fish was pushed in all directions like a lotus flower, falling in front of the onlookers. Of course, he and Nian each had a piece, and the old turtle and Xiao Sei had also come to the deck. Wouldn't they be stupid if they didn't eat delicious food? At this moment, Han Fei said leisurely, since I'm on your ship, I really feel sorry to see that you haven't even eaten a decent dish in your entire life. This 10,000 fish slices is just a casual dish. Although the taste is ordinary, it's thousands of times better than your daily diet. Don't thank me. By the way, you'd better finish it within 10 minutes. Otherwise, when it gets cold, the taste will be greatly reduced. It's not that I'm not good at cooking, but that you don't know how to enjoy it. Han Fei's words were extremely arrogant, criticizing the food of these people. Long Wu really wanted to teach this guy a lesson. However, she was the one who found them, so she still said with a black face, "Eat. It's not poisonous, women." They were always reserved. Although they wanted to eat it, they just picked up a piece of fish and put it gently into their mouth. Hiss, wow, is this still a fish? It turns out that the meat of the dark moon wolf fish can be so delicious. Someone exclaimed, "How much meat of the dark moon wolf fish have we wasted before?" Someone was shocked. Is this the so-called Chef King? The speed of these women's attacks was getting faster and faster. One piece of fish after another, no one stopped eating. When the plate in front of them was empty and the steam evaporated automatically, they came back to themselves. From this moment on, the women on the dragon dance and the pearl all looked at Han Fei in a different way. In the past, they hated men. But now they didn't seem to hate men so much. Someone asked, "Hey, do you still want to cook?" Han Fei smiled. "First of all, my name is not Hey. I am Han Fei, the Chef King. You can call me Han Fei or the King of Cooking. In addition, delicious food needs to be tasted. If you eat a lot of things in a row, it's not delicious, but overeating. If you want to eat, let's do it tomorrow." Then Han Fei took out 2 bags of potato chips and began to share them with Nian. Someone said, "Didn't you say we can't eat continuously?" The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. "It's very simple. What you ate is not delicious to me." The women, first update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1696. Even if he was to be a captive, he wanted to be a captive with high standards. Otherwise, if you were to be a yes man like the majority of the captives and be afraid, then no one would look you in the eye. One morning, 7 days later. Han Fei was fishing on the deck lazily with a fishing rod in his hand. Elder Yuan and Xiao Sei stood behind him like 2 bodyguards. Nian sat next to Han Fei, eating chips and playing with a Rubik's Cube. "You won't be able to catch anything like this. This is the savage abyss, and there are very few creatures that can live here." There weren't many dark moon wolf fish either. They had already fled when Lu Xing's senses detected them. The success rate is almost 0. It was the woman who met Han Fei for the first time. At that time, there were 2 demigods who called her Sister Fan. Without looking back, Han Fei said casually, "In this world, there are no fish that can't fall, only people who can't fish." "Hey, girl, what's your name again?" Jiang Fan's strength was close to the peak of the half-venerable realm. However, Han Fei talked to her as if he were talking to a subordinate. However, Old Turtle and Xiao Sei were both stronger than Han Fei. As a result, the 2 of them guarded Han Fei like door gods. Jiang Fan thought to himself, this person must be a talented disciple of some family. Otherwise, why would he have 2 venerables guarding him? The chaotic vast sea was definitely not small. Although there were 26 Xuanchens in each family, there were quite a number of supremacies. However, there weren't many people who could reach Han Fei's level. Jiang Fan was wondering if he should ask Sister Wu to take him down and sell him for money. Whoosh! Han Fei didn't care about Jiang Fan's response. Han Fei suddenly raised his hand and retracted the fishing rod. In the next moment, the void trembled, and a large black fish broke through the void. What else could it be but a dark moon wolf fish? Puchi! With a flick of Han Fei's finger, the dark moon wolf fish had no time to attack Han Fei at all, and its head was cut open by Han Fei's saber and its soul was destroyed. Smack! When the dark moon wolf fish landed on the deck, Little Time rushed up excitedly. She pressed her small hands on the huge fish's body and forcefully grabbed the dark moon pearl on the fish's head. Han Fei smiled and said, "Nian, use your power vibration." Oh, Nian, grabbed the fish's head and began to shake her hands. The power of the time dragon carp could not be underestimated. It was just that Nian didn't know how to use it yet. In order to minimize the use of time manipulation in the future, Han Fei had been teaching her some simple spells. Han Fei said, "Nian, do you want to eat delicious food?" Nian, recalled the taste of the hot pot and immediately nodded. Yes. Then hit the dark moon wolf fish everywhere except its head for an hour. All right. Bang! Although Nian was only a few years old, the power of a peak law enforcer was not to be underestimated. Han Fei stood on the side and set up a big array, which covered up the power that penetrated the hull. The others all looked at Han Fei in surprise. In the savage abyss, one's perception couldn't spread far. How did Han Fei find the dark moon wolf fish? Long Wu's heart skipped a beat. When fishing in the barbaric abyss, the most important thing was to use the power of one's divine soul to control the threads of spiritual energy. After all, the suction force from the barbaric abyss was very powerful. If one was careless, it was easy to fail to control the line. Judging from the distance Han Fei traveled just now, Han Fei's fishing range actually exceeded 3,000 kilometers. In other words, the divine soul power that Han Fei applied to the fishing line was extremely accurate, which allowed him to have the ability to explore the surroundings with the fishing hook. In the barbaric abyss, even she and Pearl might not be able to fish from a distance of 3,000 kilometers. It was possible for them to perceive that far. But fishing was absolutely impossible. It could be seen that Han Fei's strength was by no means as simple as a junior venerable. However, the next moment, a scene that shocked Long Wu appeared. Han Fei waved his hand and actually used the chaotic energy as bait and hung it on the fishing hook. Long Wu was dumbfounded. Using the chaotic energy as bait? Is this guy crazy? How many wisps of chaotic energy can a junior venerable have? How can you save your life if you use it to fish? Long Wu was about to ask when she saw Pearl step to her side. Pearl shook her head slightly. As long as the power of the divine soul is controlled well, it is completely possible to take back the chaotic energy. As the saying goes, those who are skilled are bold. If this person dares to do this, he must have a sense of propriety. No one who can cultivate to this level is a fool. In fact, neither Pearl nor Long Wu knew that the range of Han Fei's fishing hook had reached more than 6,000 kilometers. Only the farther away from the hull, some creatures would appear. Originally, Han Fei just wanted to fish for the dark moon wolf fish and obtain its soul. Because his soul power was still more than 5,000 points away from the limit of 200,000 points. Logically speaking, Han Fei hadn't reached the advanced level of the half-king realm yet. At this time, it should be difficult for his soul power to break through the threshold of 200,000 points, but Han Fei wanted to give it a try. How could he know if he didn't give it a try? Half an hour later. To Han Fei's surprise, he found a white shadow in the sea that had quietly arrived. Hiss! Suddenly, Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. Today, I didn't use the 9-palace fate ruler. Did my luck change? He knew that thing. What was it if not the Tao-seeking fish? Han Fei had eaten the Tao-seeking fish when he was on the Beast Island. Although he only had a little bit, Han Fei knew that it was extremely difficult to catch this fish. Besides, he didn't have an epiphany last time. It didn't make sense for pure chaotic chi to appear in this sea. No creature that could cultivate to this level was an idiot. Therefore, 6,000 kilometers away, Han Fei had been using the chaotic chi as bait and disguised himself as a mussel. This mussel was only less than the half-venerable level, but its aura was unstable. It was crawling to the outside world against the turbulence. With Han Fei's current abilities, he had already mastered the water vein technique. Originally, he only wanted to lure the half-venerable dark moon wolf fish, but he didn't expect to attract a Tao-seeking fish. The Tao-seeking fish was probing carefully and observing from a distance. Its half-hidden body was a bit like when Han Fei first learned the art of concealment. This was clearly a hunt. The mussel under Han Fei's control suddenly became alert, as if it had sensed something wrong. The mussel's body quickly turned into a stone and stayed still at the bottom of the sea. The Tao-seeking fish, seeing that the mussel was so smart, didn't panic. It waited patiently. After about a quarter of an hour, Han Fei finally controlled the muscle to move. The Tao-seeking fish seemed to be suspicious. Why would a creature of this level be so restless? Why did it move so quickly when it sensed danger? Therefore, the Tao-seeking fish hesitated. Han Fei seemed to have expected something. He controlled the muscle and with a buzz, it instantly appeared 500 miles away. The Tao-seeking fish was stunned when it saw that. It thought, what a fast escape speed. So, the muscle was alert and purposely exposed a flaw so that it could escape quickly. But what was the Tao-seeking fish for? It was born to seek Tao. It could sense where the power of Tao exceeded the limit. Just now, when the muscle was running, it revealed its Taoist aura. Therefore, a moment later, when the Tao-seeking fish approached the muscle again, it became even more cautious. This time, when the Tao-seeking fish was less than 10 kilometers away from the muscle was about to escape, but the Tao-seeking fish suddenly attacked. Its speed was so fast that it was terrifying. A white light flickered and hit the muscle. However, the moment the white light flickered, the muscle turned into a net. Han Fei caught the Tao-seeking fish with the power of his divine soul and pulled the hook. In the blink of an eye, the sky shook, and a white light appeared in the sky. The moment the Tao-seeking fish appeared, Han Fei hooked it up with the void lines and activated the sky-stealing art. Exclamations could be heard on Dragon Dance. Someone was shocked, it's a Tao-seeking fish. That guy caught a Tao-seeking fish. Someone gasped, since when can a Tao-seeking fish be caught? Long Wu was also shocked. She asked in surprise, Pearl, how did he catch one? Pearl said with a wry smile, we can't sense his fishing range at all. This guy is very weird. He's fishing a Tao-seeking fish on Dragon Dance, and he's not afraid that we'll rob him. Long Wu frowned. Should we rob him? Pearl shook her head. We don't know his background, and his identity is strange. Have you ever seen a man with a kid? He has 2 guardians, which means he's not an ordinary man. It's not worth it to fight over a Tao-seeking fish. Let's wait and see. Long Wu asked, then why do we keep him alive? Pearl said, maybe he knows something that we don't. At this moment, information popped up in Han Fei's eyes. Name, Tao-seeking fish. Introduction, a legendary creature that often appears in dangerous places. This fish is born to pursue the Tao-seeking Tao. It can devour spiritual energy and decompose the power of Tao. Therefore, the chaotic energy inside its body is more than a few times more than a normal person. This fish is good at hiding and is extremely difficult to catch. It likes places with strong Tao. Level 81 Quality a legendary Tao, Heaven Melting. It contains chaotic energy greater than 12 strands. Effect, it can improve one's power of understanding and strengthen one's Tao heart. Collectible Heart of Tao. Remark, the Heart of Tao is not very effective if taken frequently. Heart of Tao. Chilla, Han Fei drew out his knife. A narrow cut appeared on the body of the Tao-seeking fish. And a fish heart appeared in Han Fei's hand at some point. Han Fei took the Heart of Tao and activated it. Calabash, absorb, second update. Please vote, end of this chapter. Chapter 1697. The most useful thing about the Tao-seeking fish was the Heart of Tao. After taking it, Han Fei wouldn't care about the fish meat anymore. While stealing the soul power and vitality of the Tao-seeking fish with the sky-stealing technique, Han Fei absorbed the chaotic energy inside the Tao-seeking fish with the demon purification pot. A Tao-seeking fish was dissected and absorbed by Han Fei, not a single bit of its energy was wasted. Han Fei planned to keep the meat and make a mushroom fish stew later. The taste wouldn't be bad either. Of course, none of the people present could see what Han Fei did. In their eyes, Han Fei just caught the Tao-seeking fish and took back the Heart of Tao. At that moment, many people turned to look at Long Wu and Pearl. The gist of it was that the Heart of Tao was expensive. It's even priceless. Shouldn't we rob it? After all, we're pirates. But Han Fei didn't care. Do they really dare to rob me? Then I'll beat them to death. What's wrong with women? In the world of cultivators, there was no such thing as a man or a woman, only the strong and the weak. However, Long Wu and Pearl didn't say anything, and Han Fei naturally put away the heart of Dao. Clang, seeing that nobody was giving him any trouble, Han Fei took out his big pot and said, "Let's make a deal. I'll only cook 1 dish a day, and you'll just have a taste. You want to eat here?" "That's impossible." Humph, someone was speechless and mumbled, "Why are you so arrogant? He's just a chef." Someone shook his head. "This chef is impressive." He took the heart of Dao, but the two captains didn't say anything. But in the dark, Long Wu was furious and couldn't help but ask, "Pearl, what exactly do you like about them?" Pearl said casually, "Long Wu, you know that we have to treat everything about the barbaric abyss seriously. I don't believe that anyone would come to the barbaric abyss just to eat and drink. This man is suspicious." Long Wu said, "There are too many suspicious people. They even used the ship of the marauders. Who knew if these people were actually the pirates in disguise? Their purpose is to steal our exploration of the barbaric abyss." Pearl was silent for a moment, then said leisurely, "At least, there is something wrong with their combination." There were 3 humans. One of them was a child who had reached the peak of law enforcer at the age of a few years, and the other was a tortoise demon. "Have you heard of beasts that can transform into humans?" Long Wu shook her head. "Never. But someone has guessed this question before, right?" Pearl looked at Long Wu. "Do you still remember the purpose of the demoness pirates coming to the savage abyss?" Hiss. Long Wu took a deep breath and looked at Pearl in surprise. "You can't be thinking that they came out from inside, right?" In the darkness where the two of them were talking, a pure black shadow moved slightly. If it wasn't Han Fei's body of black fog, what was it? Han Fei's eyes flickered with astonishment while he was dissecting the Dao-seeking fish, as he thought to himself, how did they know someone would come out from the desolate abyss? Pearl and Long Wu considered themselves to be half-monarch realm experts, and they were not ordinary half-monarch realm experts. Therefore, they naturally didn't take Han Fei and the others seriously, nor did they think that Han Fei could hear them. Therefore, the two of them were chatting naturally, without any wariness. Pearl said, "At least, this is the biggest movement in the desolate abyss in the past 10,000 years. Not only us, but many people from the outer 13 heavens have also come, including the marauders. However, we just had to meet these people. Perhaps, they are the chosen ones who snuck out of the sect. But no matter what their motives are, they are not simple. Therefore, we can either keep them or cook for them if they want. Let the Guardian go back and investigate them. If they are from the outer 13 heavens, do you think someone will come to save them?" Long Wu's eyes lit up. "So, if we can't find their information and no one comes to save them, it means that they are very likely related to the desolate abyss?" Pearl nodded. "We can't be sure. Let Teacher Xian Feng do it." "Huh?" Long Wu was dumbfounded. "You need the demoness to do it for such a small matter?" Pearl couldn't help but look at Long Wu. "Do you think it's a small matter?" Long Wu smiled awkwardly. "Okay. I'll do it now." Speaking of which, Han Fei was a little confused. Listening to the conversation between the two, Pearl actually suspected that he came from the desolate abyss. Why was that? As a normal person who met them on the ship of the marauders, they wouldn't associate them with the desolate abyss, right? And just because of this little suspicion, this Pearl actually wanted to go to the outer 13 heavens to investigate him? And she even called the Xian Feng demon girl over? Was her brain hit by an iron-head fish? However, from the conversation between the two, Han Fei also made some unexpected discoveries. The witch pirates were very concerned about the desolate abyss. The mission of the demoness pirates that Pearl and Long Wu mentioned was obviously related to whether or not anyone came out of the barbaric abyss. From this point, Han Fei could be sure. First of all, the witch pirates were very sure that there were people in the desolate abyss. Secondly, the witch pirates were always paying attention to all the changes in the desolate abyss. Just now, they mentioned that the desolate abyss was quite noisy. Now, Han Fei suspected that the so-called noise might be the energy that old Yuan helped him suppress. With his current physique, he was almost blown up by that energy. When he found this slightly safer exit from the fork in the desolate abyss, there was indeed a terrifying force that instantly pulled him out. Logically speaking, with his current experience, it was almost impossible for a half-king realm cultivator to bear that kind of energy. It was probably just a coincidence that he could bear it. Long Wu acted without hesitation. She ordered one of the 3 ships to change its course and head back directly. Han Fei thought to himself, I've just arrived and you're already investigating me? If you investigate me, won't I have to show up in the outer 13 heavens? At that time, if there was really something wrong with me, the witch pirates naturally wouldn't be able to catch me. But what if other pirate groups and people from the outer 13 heavens knew that I came out of the desolate abyss? At that time, there was almost no doubt that they would become the target of public criticism. In particular, he had a child with him. His characteristics were so obvious, which would definitely make things difficult for him in the future. Therefore, the protector could not be allowed to leave. Han Fei couldn't wait any longer. No matter what the purpose of the witch pirates was, they had been paying attention to the desolate abyss. He had to keep it a secret. The location of the Yin-Yang heaven and the Waterwood heaven couldn't be disclosed. Otherwise, with the current strength of the Yin-Yang heaven and the Waterwood heaven, it was impossible for them to resist any force here. Even if only one pirate group went there, they wouldn't be able to resist. What a joke. The top 10 pirate groups here all had kings. Even the Demoness pirate group, which was ranked 10th, had 4 of the strongest quasi-kings and countless venerables under their command, let alone the other powers. Han Fei suddenly got up, glanced at old Yuan and Xiao Sei, and said to them via voice transmission, "Get ready. I'm going to take you back to the sea-quelling painting. We don't have to stay in the witch pirates anymore. It's time for these women to die." However, just as the Guardian was about to leave and Han Fei was about to take action, suddenly, Han Fei looked at the void in the distance, only to see a large area of the void was broken. Swish, swish, swish 5 black shark ships broke out of the void in a row. This thing was like a space jump. Those who didn't know might think it was a spaceship. Now, Han Fei was a little confused. How did these people locate them? It suddenly appeared without any warning. Here, even the perception of a half-king wasn't very far. How did these ships know that the Pearl and the Dragon Dance were here? Ha ha ha, Long Wu, Wang Zhenju. I really didn't expect that. I would actually meet you here. Oh, Xian Feng is not here. What a coincidence. At the moment the big black ship appeared, Pearl and Long Wu both shouted, "Activate the ship array and prepare to defend against the enemy." As they spoke, Pearl appeared on the mast at the top of the ship, and the battle suit on her body instantly crystallized and turned into a dazzling pearl battle suit. She grabbed dozens of silk threads in her hand. The 3 big ships were pulled by the silk threads, and the ship array was fully activated. Long Wu drew her knife and shouted, "Phoenix King Cannon, ready." As a bystander, Han Fei saw that this group of pirates was full of vigor in an instant. Everyone was tense, but no one panicked. Jiang Fan's eyes were filled with determination. He was determined to fight to the end. It seemed that as soon as the enemy came, their combat power soared to 120%. On the other side of the hull, there was a middle-aged man with a ferocious face. His chest was open, and he was holding 2 black thorns in his hands. He was wearing thorny armor and laughing creepily. Han Fei immediately recognized him. Damn it! Who else could it be if not the crazy 4 kings? Han Fei and the old turtle looked at each other. What the fuck was this luck? As soon as they came out of the savage abyss, there were boss-level bandits everywhere. Didn't the pirate kings not come out? Why did they come out too? It seemed that the things in the savage abyss this time might be beyond Han Fei's imagination. Just now, according to Pearl, there were some people from the outer 13 heavens on the periphery of this sea area. The old turtle said, "You should be able to run away, right?" Han Fei shrugged. It shouldn't be a big problem. Part 3. Please vote for me, end of this chapter. Chapter 1698. The Demoness pirate crew's fate would definitely not end well. After all, they had kings on their side, while they only had 2.5 kings. No matter how powerful they were only half kings, unless Pearl and Long Wu were as strong as Han Fei. Otherwise, they could only rely on their ships to resist the attacks of the marauders. Long Wu shouted, "Get ready for void teleportation." Ha ha ha! Wild laughter came from the 5 marauders that the 4 mad kings were on. The crazy 4 kings burst into laughter. "Little Long Wu, I'm here. Do you really think you can run away? I won't stop you if you dare to teleport." At this moment, Pearl ordered, "Don't worry about this lunatic's nonsense. It's impossible for a king to move quietly. Get ready for void teleportation. Besides, if we can hold on until the witch arrives, we'll be saved." The 4 mad kings dashed out and stood in the void. "Wang Zhenju, maybe the Pearl and the Dragon Dance can hold on for a while. However, your guardian isn't a warlord-class flagship. It won't be able to withstand the blows of this king's hammer. Even if I didn't do anything, they wouldn't be able to withstand our Fish King cannon." Pearl and Long Wu's expressions changed drastically. The 4 mad kings were right. Their ships could resist the kings for a while. However, the protector wouldn't last more than 100 breaths before it was destroyed. The 4 mad kings said, "Wang Zhenju, I don't hate Xian Feng. As long as you tell this king what your witch pirate crew is looking for, perhaps, this king will let you off." Pearl said coldly, "What if I don't tell you?" The 4 mad kings laughed. "It's fine if you don't tell me. Do you think you can wait for Xian Feng to come? Now that I've made a move, how can I give her a chance? Even if Xian Feng is here, does she dare to challenge me? I'll give you 10 minutes. If you don't agree, I'll destroy the protector first. As for the Pearl and the Dragon Dance, you can go back to the marauders' camp with the half-kings." Ha ha ha. The 4 mad kings laughed hard, as if they were happy to meet the Dragon Dance and the Pearl. Han Fei was speechless. Are the kings of the 36 mysterious heavens so worthless? Say it, say it. He had seen the 4 mad kings roaming around Martial Emperor City from the memories of that high-level venerable on the marauders' ship. Wasn't Martial Emperor City quite far away from here? Just as the 4 mad kings were laughing hard, someone seemed to have said something to him. He turned his eyes to Han Fei. The mad 4th king said, "Wu. You've got guts, kid. How dare you rob the ship of my marauders? How dare you kill this prince's men? I wonder, who gave you the courage?" After the mad 4 kings said that, the crew of Dragon Dance and the Pearl all looked at Han Fei. Han Fei, on the other hand, had a headache too. He never thought that he would run into the mad 4 kings so soon. His trip this time was really as simple as finding a person. Why did such a simple thing become so complicated? Han Fei shrugged and said, "Who asked your men to attack us first? If he had known earlier, he would have killed all the people on that ship." What a blunder. Han Fei was telling the truth. Han Fei didn't think that the death of an advanced venerable would attract the 4 mad kings. Besides, it had been a few months since he hijacked the ship. If he hadn't accidentally boarded Dragon Dance, this wouldn't have happened. It could only be said that the weather was unpredictable. Everything in the world was possible. In the future, he had to be more ruthless. Otherwise, other people would think that he was a kind person. The 4 mad kings' mouth twitched. "Kid, you're gutsy. But today is the day of your death." Han Fei looked at Long Wu and Pearl, then looked at the 4 mad kings and said, "Then you have to defeat Dragon Dance first." Long Wu shouted in a low voice, "Han Fei, shut up." Han Fei shrugged. Would they stop fighting if I shut up? What a joke, he was just burying his head in the sand. The muscles on the mad 4 kings' face twitched as they said in a stern voice, "Wang Zhenju, if you tell me the purpose of the Demoness pirates and hand this man over, I'll let you go. How you choose, depends on you. Wu, you still have 3 breaths of time. Pearl was silent and didn't speak. She didn't care whether she handed over Han Fei or not. The problem was that the four mad kings wouldn't let them go no matter what she said. Let them go. That was just what the four mad kings said. Pearl wasn't stupid. When the 3 seconds were up, the four mad kings suddenly attacked. The two awls in their hands pierced tens of thousands of meters into the sea like rainbows piercing through the sun, splitting the whirlpool. Clink clink with 2 screeches, the protector was enveloped by a layer of shields. However, the color flickered. With one glance, Han Fei could tell that in the face of a terrifying attack from a king, especially one like the Mad Four Kings, which might even have an armor-piercing attack, the protector wouldn't even be able to last for 50 breaths. It would be broken, or even less. Han Fei said to them telepathically, Nian, don't wander around me. Later, don't resist. Let's go to Earth 9 and play hide and seek. Nian, grabbed Han Fei's sleeve and said, Brother. Is that a bad guy? Han Fei said with a smile, obviously. Nian, asked, Brother, are we going to beat the bad guys? Han Fei smiled and said, Nian, if you want to beat the bad guys, you have to see how strong they are. If the bad guys are stronger than you, you have to wait. When they are stronger than you, you can beat them. That's the right way to beat the bad guys. Nian, asked, but won't the bad guys do bad things during this time? Han Fei said, in every second that we experience, someone is doing bad things. However, no one can pay attention to all the bad things. Nian, remember, where there are people, there will be trouble. This is the law of nature, and it can't be stopped. Okay. On the side, Xiao Sei was already very nervous. Seeing that Han Fei was still teaching the kids here and instilling these things into them, she felt very uncomfortable. At this moment, both Pearl and the four mad kings heard Han Fei's preaching. However, no one paid any attention to him. What the mad four kings were thinking was, I'll capture this person later and torture him. Pearl and Long Wu, on the other hand, felt that the two of them were obviously weird. How could this person still have the time to preach here at this critical juncture? Just how big did his heart have to be? Bam! 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 The moment the four mad kings attacked the Guardian, the 5 ships on the opposite side opened their mouths and bombarded with the Fish King cannons. However, the Fish King cannons only bombarded the Guardian. It was obvious that the 4 insane kings wanted to take down the Protector as soon as possible. At that time, he could use the people on the Protector to threaten Pearl, and it would become a one-sided psychological suppression. Unless Pearl had no feelings for her subordinates. Otherwise, how would she choose at that time? Pearl, however, gave a decisive order, Phoenix King cannons, stop them. Boom! 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 Forces that were much more powerful than the attack of a half-king collided in midair. The aftermath of the explosion spread across 1,000 kilometers, causing waves to soar into the sky. The moment the Pearl and the Dragon Dance bombarded each other, Han Fei was surprised. The power of the Phoenix King cannons was the combination of the Pearl and the Dragon Dance. Among them, the Pearl launched the scorching power of Yang, and the Dragon Dance launched the cold power of ice. The two kinds of powers combined and interweaved in the air, forming the ice and fire yin-yang force. Han Fei frowned. Is it a coincidence, or, the mad four kings burst into laughter. Pearl Wang, how many attacks can the Pearl and Dragon Dance launch with the energy they have stored? At most, it will last for about 10 seconds. It's meaningless to this king. Pearl said without hesitation, Sisters, the 4 mad kings can't be trusted. Either we die, or we gather all our forces and wait for Lord Xian Feng. There is no third option. Now, everyone, take out all the resources you have on you and use them to fill in the gaps. The old turtle said, is the power they use similar to the sun yin-yang wheel of the yin-yang heaven? Han Fei thought to himself, yes, but not exactly the same. At this moment, in the fleet, Long Wu said anxiously, Pearl, what should we do? At this rate, the Pearl and Dragon Dance's power will be depleted. Our fleet won't be able to hold on for more than 200 breaths. However, Pearl said lightly, no. If we can't hold on, teleport directly to the depths of the Savage Abyss. Long Wu was shocked. Are you crazy? The Savage Abyss is so terrifying. It is known as the place where even kings die. Aren't we courting death by teleporting there? Pearl smiled faintly. Xiao Wu, how long have you been in the Witch Pirates? Long Wu was stunned for a moment and quickly replied, the year 1206. Pearl said leisurely, it's been more than 1,000 years. There are some things that I should tell you. At least before you die, I should let you know why we have been exploring the Savage Abyss. Long Wu was shocked and immediately looked at Pearl in astonishment. On the deck, Han Fei's lips also curled into a smile. It seems that there are indeed secrets. Pearl said, Xiao Wu, the Witch Pirates used to be called the Lunar Academy, one of the 2 strongest academies in the Yin-Yang Heaven, ranked 9th among the 36 mysterious heavens. And the Savage Abyss is very likely to be the hidden place of our Yin-Yang Heaven. Smack! Before Long Wu could react, Han Fei slapped his thigh and muttered, motherfucker, fucking awesome, first update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1699. Han Fei didn't expect that he would run into people from the Lunar Academy as soon as he left the Yin-Yang Heaven. Moreover, the Lunar Academy had become the Demoness Pirates now. Old Manren said, the Lunar Academy was lost in the war back then. Therefore, Yin-Yang Heaven only had the Thug Academy, which was the pure Yang sect, but not the Lunar Academy. Now, when Han Fei heard that the Witch Pirates turned out to be the former Moon Academy, then, everything made sense. Why did the Demoness Pirate group pay attention to the Savage Abyss? Why did the Demoness Pirates send out 2 of their great generals when the Savage Abyss was slightly shaken? As it turned out, although these people were from the Demoness Pirates essentially belonged to the Lunar Academy. This was a pirate group made up entirely of women, and an all-women academy. Han Fei didn't know what to say. He had planned to kill these 2 women. In the end, these 2 turned out to be his teammates. However, after swearing, Han Fei didn't intend to get to know Pearl and the others again. After all, the timing wasn't right. Outside, the Mad 4 Kings were making their moves. If the Black Phoenix Demon Lady did not arrive within 100 breaths, the 3 ships would be doomed. But on second thought, even if there was time to introduce them to each other, it was not necessary. No matter how low the Demoness Pirate crew's ranking was, they still had a king. The Black Phoenix Demoness was a sea expansion realm expert, but what about him? The true master of the Yin-Yang Heaven had yet to open his sea. Even if Xian Feng was willing to hand over the Demoness Pirates to him, what could he use them for? Would he be able to control them? Therefore, Han Fei had an idea. Instead of submitting to them, the Lunar Academy might as well exist independently as the Witch Pirates. Although they wanted to find the Yin-Yang Heaven, no one knew why they were looking for it. Moreover, the independent existence of the Lunar Academy could perhaps also become a trump card for him in the future. With this in mind, Han Fei immediately sorted out his thoughts. It would not be nice to recognize her now. However, in this situation, Han Fei couldn't run anymore. In the end, it was his own people who were beaten up. How could the forces of the Lunar Academy allow the marauders to attack them on a whim? At this time, Han Fei couldn't help but shout at Long Wu and Pearl, "Hey! Run faster! What are you all standing around for? Let's not talk about whether you can run or not, but you guys have to run first." "Shut up!" Long Wu glanced at them, and Jiang Fan scolded, "Don't disturb the captain. If we run now, it's the same as ruining the route." Han Fei cursed, "Did you hit your head with an iron-head fish? It was just a route. What's the big deal about losing it?" Long Wu was about to berate her, but Pearl's eyes lit up and she pulled Long Wu back. But Pearl didn't do anything else. She continued to fire the ice and fire yin-yang cannon, the so-called Phoenix King cannon. Jiang Fan glared at Han Fei and said, "What do you know?" This is our main route. Once the route is exposed, it's very likely that we'll be pursued by the other party, and the demoness pirate crew will be in danger of being annihilated. Han Fei's lips twitched. We're about to die, and you're still talking about the route. What the hell are you talking about? If we lose the route, we'll explore again. The demoness pirate crew has lost 2 generals and more than 60 members. God knows when we can train more. However, Han Fei's words sounded very disdainful to the others. Someone on the demoness pirate crew's side even shouted, "Men are really unreliable. They're cowards who are afraid of death." That's right. If you want to live, why don't you run away yourself? Fuck, Han Fei was stunned. What a bunch of stubborn fools. You guys still have the nerve to say that you're from the Lunar Academy? My Thug Academy has such an excellent campus culture. When it came to you, what have you developed into? Are you stubborn? Ha ha ha. At this moment, the crazy 4 kings laughed. This kid is right. Wang Zhenzhu, Long Wu, why don't you try to escape? Why don't I stay and you can choose one of them to escape? What if you escape? Ah ha ha. The marauders roared with laughter. Someone sneered, "Women, you're not decisive enough. If we had run at the beginning, maybe one of our ships would have escaped." Someone laughed. That's right. It's just a shipping route. Whether it's the Pearl or the Dragon Dance, it's worth it. Someone laughed heartily. Actually, we wouldn't be willing to let you die. As long as you obediently follow us back to the Marauders' camp. Ah ha ha. Listening to the laughter, Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, no matter what realm you're in, human nature is like this. They were all too happy. On the demoness pirate crew's side, at the moment of life and death, everyone looked extremely awful. How could ordinary people be in the mood to argue with them? At this moment, Han Fei took out 2 bags of potato chips, handed one to Nian, and ate the other for himself. Crunch. Nian, are you afraid? Nian shook her head. No, brother. Are they all bad guys? Han Fei nodded. Yes, under normal circumstances, these people are very eloquent, but their strength is not very good. In the future, they usually won't be very promising. Nian, in the future, let's not talk. Nian nodded. Then beat them. Han Fei said with a smile, you can't just beat them. As the saying goes, cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. A while ago, Big Brother hesitated for a moment, which led to this series of consequences. Xiao Sei immediately felt uncomfortable. How old is Little Master? You want to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots? Nian, looked at Han Fei curiously and asked, do you kill them? Han Fei nodded. This is a world where the strong prey on the weak. If you don't kill them, someone will kill you. It's that simple. For example, if someone wants to steal your path, you kill him. Speaking of this, Han Fei seemed to think of something. Back then, Shiman Linglan's spiritual heritage was robbed. Glancing at Long Wu and Pearl, Han Fei continued to educate them. However, if the enemy is much stronger than you, it's obviously not worthwhile to fight them head-on. At this time, no matter how high the price is, you have to run. Don't be afraid of being humiliated. Those who are afraid of being humiliated are already dead. A real strong person dares to face a strong enemy and has the courage to recognize their current situation. Long Wu immediately shouted, Han Fei, shut up. Do you believe that I'll kill you right now? On the witch pirates, many people were furious. Han Fei was so sarcastic and scolding them. The mad 4 kings looked at Han Fei with great interest. Boy, you're interesting. You're bad-tempered, but you're reasonable. Boy, although you're a bit weak, how about you join the Marauders after I destroy the Dragon Dance? Hearing the mad 4 kings' words, many people on the Dragon Dance looked at Han Fei coldly. If Han Fei dared to say yes, it was not hard to imagine what would happen to him. Crunch, however, Han Fei chewed a potato chip and said, Nian, there is another kind of person in this world. This kind of person is very calculative and always wants to trick and take advantage of you. There's something you must remember. The best way to destroy a group of people, a force, or an organization is to disintegrate it from the inside. Nian blinked her big eyes and scratched her hair, as if she didn't understand. Han Fei didn't think much of it. At this moment, he turned his head to look at the mad four kings with a faint smile on his face. Han Fei smiled disdainfully. Damn it, who do you think you are? You want me to join your marauders? Can your marauders resist me? Son of a bitch, if I could beat you, I would have gone out and rubbed you under the water. At that moment, everyone was dumbfounded. On the dragon dance, a group of women looked at Han Fei in shock. The ship array may be broken in a moment. You're fucking provoking the king. Do you want to be tortured to death? Long Wu was completely stunned. He cursed the king. What the hell? Even she had never thought of cursing the king, but Han Fei just did it. Pearl still didn't speak, but her eyes became deeper. Nian looked at Han Fei in surprise. Brother, you just said that if you can fight, don't talk, Han Fei said with a smile. Nian, what I teach you never includes yourself. That's relative to others. You must remember this. Okay. On the Marauders' side, countless people were shocked. What the hell? How dare he curse the four kings? Is he out of his mind? Immediately, someone cursed, "You bastard, I'm going to cut off your tongue." Someone shouted, "Brat, how dare you insult the four kings? I'm going to make you regret coming to this world." Someone smirked. "Brat, your life is over. I'm going to make your skull into a wine cup." Even the four mad kings were taken aback. Even the muscles on his face were trembling. He sneered coldly. Good, good, good. What a sharp-tongued brat. Since you want to die early, I'll satisfy you. Clank, clank, clank. The mad four kings personally attacked the dragon dance, and he even shouted in a low voice, "Destroy the protector for me. I want to see which one you are protecting." Sigh. Han Fei heaved a long sigh and turned to Nian. Nian, let's go play with Bunny, shall we? Nian's eyes glittered, but then she asked, "Brother, are you going to beat up the bad guys?" Han Fei smiled. Of course. Nian immediately clenched her fists and said, "Then come on, brother." Illusions of mountains and rivers appeared out of nowhere. Nian, Old Yuan, and Xiao Sei were all taken in. No one stopped this scene, but it attracted too much attention. However, Han Fei had a small world that could take in living people. This immediately aroused the interest of many people. The four kings laughed aloud. I didn't expect that I would get a small world for free. Looks like this prince's luck on this trip is not an ordinary kind of good. However, Han Fei stood up and said leisurely, "The four kings, right? Okay, with the king and the two generals of the witch pirates as witnesses, it's not bad." At that moment, Han Fei's demeanor suddenly changed, and his aura became stronger and stronger. In the blink of an eye, his aura had risen to the half-king realm. Han Fei shouted, "My name is Han Fei. From today on, I solemnly announce the official establishment of the Avengers." Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter.